I ask everyone to please help keep the meetings focused so we can accomplish our goals. Commissioners, please put an asterisk again in the chat box if you wish to speak, so CalRecycle staff and I can see you and call you in the order requested. For those submitting comments on the agenda items, please keep them very focused and clear and no more than 3 minutes. Members of the public who wish to comment during the meeting may do so using the Commission's public comment portal. When using the public comment portal, please select workshop from the initial drop-down menu. Please use the portal, not the email, to submit comments as part of CalRecycle's and the Commission's commitment to maintaining transparency, because they're all logged and recorded automatically and uploaded to the website, and it does comply with the ADA accessibility standards. It's easy to follow our work. Please use the listserv that's on the CalRecycle/markets/commission website, and just look above the blue bar for commission meetings, and you can sign up for the listserv and get the updates on our work. So with the housekeeping, we'll go ahead into agenda item number 1, our call to order and roll call. Vice Chair Valier, do you want to call that, or do you want me to go ahead and do it?
Please go ahead, Chair.
Okay, very good. So Commissioner Bouchard.
Here.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner Cadena. Are we missing Commissioner Cadena? Okay, so she's absent. Hopefully get on. Can somebody text her and make sure she's coming? Maybe
text her. Yeah.
Thank you. Commissioner Davis.
I'm here.
Great. Commissioner Dell.
Here.
Commissioner Dunleavy. He told me he was going to be a little late, so hopefully he'll be here soon. Commissioner Ferrante.
Here.
Thank you. Commissioner Kalpikoff. No, Commissioner Kalpikoff. Okay, if somebody could text Mr. Kalpikoff, that would be great. Commissioner Lapis.
Here.
Thank you. Commissioner Madrano.
Here.
Commissioner Osigura.
Here.
Commissioner Potashner.
Here.
Commissioner Sanborn, that's me. I am here. Commissioner Schneider.
Here.
Commissioner Sky.
Here.
Commissioner Toyota.
Here.
Commissioner Valle.
Here.
And Commissioner Ward.
Here.
Okay, so we do have a quorum. We are currently missing Commissioners Cadena, Dunleavy, and Kalpikoff. I expect Dunleavy soon. So hopefully people are texting and trying to get our 2 missing commissioners on the call. Would be great. And we'll proceed with agenda item. I'm sorry?
Commissioner Kalpikoff just joined, although I think he's still on mute.
Oh, good. So are you here, Commissioner Kalpikoff? I can't see him because the screen, there's so many of us. He has a thumbs up. Okay, so he is here. Okay, so we're only missing Dunleavy and Cadena, so hopefully they'll join us soon. Very good. So with 15 of 17, we have a quorum. So I'll move on to agenda item number 2, public comment and review on items not on the agenda. So at this time, any member of the public may address the commission on matters not listed on the agenda. Participants are encouraged to reserve their comments for regular matters listed on the agenda for the time that item is considered by the commission. So I can turn that over to CalRecycle staff. Do we have any public comments at this time?
Hi, everybody. We do have public comments. We have 5, and we are, again, this time only reading to 500 words on this public comments, which is only for 1. So first public comment is from Richard Watson with Richard Watson and Associates Incorporated. These comments do not seem to fit in any one of the 4 subcommittees, so I'm addressing them to the commission as a whole. First, when I watched your entire initial meeting, I was disappointed that the stormwater perspective is not represented by a designated municipal stormwater quality program member of the commission. You should ask the legislature to correct that omission. Solid waste is not just a trash hauler or landfill operator issue. It is a major stormwater quality issue. We have many stormwater quality trash requirements throughout the state, and trash that gets into the storm drain systems also carries other pollutants with it. I believe source control was mentioned in the first meeting. It is critical for stormwater. The California Stormwater Quality Association, CASQA worked with Sustainable Conservation to get SB 346, the brake pad bill, passed in 2010 to reduce copper in brake pads to reduce the source of copper getting into stormwater. We also have a petition before DTSC to reduce the amount of zinc in tires because there are major zinc water quality problems in the urban areas of the state. Stormwater quality groups have also backed other source control measures such as plastic bag bans, a styrofoam ban, and propose extended producer responsibility programs such as requiring take-back programs. As a group, the commission needs to give much more attention to what CASQA has called true source control. Second comment is from Ferris Kawar. I believe he's from LA. Manufacturers should take responsibility for the products and packaging they choose to use. This means there should be requirements that manufacturers limit the materials they use to only what can be easily and widely recycled in our state. They should also be part of the recycling process so that there is a feedback loop that lets them continually improve their products and packaging to make them more easily disassembled and recycled. Clear, uniform instructions on how to disassemble and recycle should be labeled on all items. And the second comment by Ferris Kawar. Relative to category number 5 in public education, I recommend that CalRecycle work with stakeholders to pressure the entertainment industry, e.g. Hollywood, to take a responsibility for their role in shaping societal norms. If shows were to casually depict home composting as a normal action in the lives of the on-screen characters, it would go a long way in accelerating adoption in California. Similarly, every time a character that is shown drinking a beverage from a single-use bottle or coffee cup, it only reinforces that as a socially acceptable way to use valuable resources. The Environmental Media Association, EMA, is not effective enough in their efforts to get Hollywood to change. We need stronger measures. The entertainment industry must take responsibility for the content they produce and realize it has direct impact on the perceptions of their audience. Withholding permits for production in jurisdictions is one way your cities can apply pressure. Think of this effort as product placement of environmental actions. It generally won't change the storyline or impact the cost of production, but it will normalize actions that jurisdictions across the state have been promoting for decades, but in a far more effective way. As a former advertising professional that turned recycling specialist for the city of Burbank, I know how powerful entertainment can be in shaping public norms. I urge CalRecycle to take this idea seriously and create a group that will approach the industry with these ideas. They may come on board willingly, and if not, legislation is in order. And a comment from, yes.
Okay, before you move on, I'm thinking that comment about public education should be referred to the committee on labeling in public education or labeling in media. Okay. So if everybody's okay with that, we can just toss that comment to that committee. Okay, thumbs up, good. So Jan, that's your, yeah, Jan, that's yours. Okay. And then for Richard Watson, I think that's general comment, and Ferris is just saying he's supporting the EPR. So that's just more of general comments for all of us to note. Mm-hmm. Thank you. So just please, you can proceed.
Okay, sure. Two more. One short from Alfred 2. Please help standardize what is recyclable or compostable in each city, especially those in the same county. That's the comment. And the last comment from Mike Tinney of Tinney Associates. Having worked for 7 years under subcontract to CalRecycle on market development for tires and 5 years under contract to CARE for market development of carpet, I have ground floor experience in seeing what works and the obstacles that need to be overcome. Let's look at the carpet program in California as managed by CARE. Under severe pressure from CalRecycle, CARE finally instituted a grant program for capital infrastructure and product testing that passes all of the discarded carpet in California. Thanks to individual ingenuity and business savvy on the part of these California-based processors, products and markets have been and are being developed with the potential to absorb virtually all California carpet discards. This demand is fueled by the incentives and grant money coming from the fees California consumers pay at retail when purchasing new carpet in California. Today, these processors and markets are being starved by carpet discard supply shortages. How can that be one? How can that be, one asks, when carpet recycling in California hovers around 20%, with the balance going to landfill? What exists is a management problem driven by conflicting priorities. California consumers want and are willing to pay for diverting all carpet from landfill, and in the process build and maintain a viable job creating California-based infrastructure to collect, process, and consume discarded California carpet material. CARE wants to maintain control of the California program so that success can be limited to levels that allows them to maintain control, but not to a level that signals carpet recycling success to the rest of the country and encourages the spread of EPR into other states. This point is validated by the aggressive and expensive methods used by CARE and their masters at CRI, Carpet and Rug Institute, to stifle EPR in other states. What should California do? Number one, CARE has been found not compliant for 5 years. Fines are discussed, but as yet not levied for collection. Get aggressive on assessing fines and collecting the money from CARE members, most of whom are unaware of the potential severity of continued failure in California. CARE is run with an iron fist by a small group of the largest carpet manufacturers. Most members are not involved and are uninformed. Fines levied against each CARE member will get their attention and help fuel the needed change in management priorities. I find this part of the state's program administration similar in nature and effect to SABRAC, where the state agencies all have a goal and commitment to buy recycled content products, but few do so since the program has no enforcement teeth to provide consequences for agency failure to achieve committed SABRAC goals. Immediate action is required to increase carpet collections and can be helped by providing incentives to landfills to separate discarded carpet for collection. CARE has salaried staff in California available to help if so directed. There are funds available in a little bit more, but we hit our 500. So if you want me to
Okay.
stop there.
So here's what I'm thinking. Let's, couple things. So it sounds like, first of all, we had Jeff join us, so we could make that note in the record that we now have 16 of 17 commissioners here, unless we also got Deborah Cadena on. Is she on yet? No, okay. So we have 16 of 17 commissioners present. I think Mr. Tinney's comments could be deferred to, there's actually two committees that his comments cover. One is the market development side, state agency buy recycled campaign. I'm on that committee. And I know, John, we planned on, I think we already did a data request to Cal Recycle for an update to what is happening with the state agency buy recycled campaign and what we can do, what kind of advice then we could give on that. So that we should bring up in that committee. And then the fines, that's a recycling issue. Now, carpet, as we all know, is a high GHG product, and it's a high volume product. It's 2 to 3% of our entire waste disposed. So when it talks about greenhouse gas emissions in our statute, I think this is something that maybe, are you okay with kicking this to the recycling committee? This part of it, the comment? Everybody okay with that?
Yeah, that makes sense, but we're all going to end up addressing everything. I'm certainly ready to talk about carpet at the market.
Yeah, but there's also going to be lead committees. Otherwise, we're going to overlap too much and duplicate effort and get confusing. So we're going to have a lead committee for each, and then others can discuss it and certainly cross-pollinate. And then we all discuss everything, obviously.
We're gonna bifurcate those comments.
Yeah.
Well, I'll just throw out here, is there, I hate to have too many committees, but product stewardship is a different beast than recycling commodities. And I'm wondering if there's any interest or possibility of having a separate product stewardship committee, because those are an entirely separate group of activities.
I think we discussed that, and I think that the way the commission, and tell me if I'm wrong, but I thought I heard that it's a policy means to an end, which is source reduction and recycling. So, and getting to closed loop systems. It's a way to fund it and manage it. So actually it could be discussed in pretty much any committee, but it's really up to you as commissioners and your committees to bring these issues up. And you're clearly hearing from some of the comments that they want us to think about producer responsibilities and closing the loop. So I think as commissioners, we just have to put that in the back of our mind as we discuss all of the policies. Does that sound right to everybody? Or
if I could chime in for a second.
can everybody start using the chat box, please?
Where is the chat box? I'm not finding
I
that.
can't find the chat box.
It's
Okay, so,
disabled for some reason.
It's at your end. I had the same problem the first meeting. Is if you go to on GoToMeeting, you have to click the screen. I believe it is that gives you the different options for what you can see, and then it will pull out the chat box, and you just hit the drop down menu, and you can see how to use the chat.
Heidi,
I
it says
don't
it's
think it was
disabled
enabled.
by organizer.
Okay, well,
Is
we'll
that-
try.
Cal Recycle needs to enable it.
CalRecycle?
We will work on this.
Sorry, guys. Okay, we'll check that next time before we start. I thought it was working because I could see it. Sorry. Go ahead, Nick.
I should have just
so that-
fixed it. Hopefully, can you guys recheck?
Yep,
There we go.
it
Yeah,
works
it's up now. It's up now.
Oh, good. Thank you.
I think the comment actually kind of highlighted the importance of looking at the product stewardship programs in line with the other recycling programs, because I think we need to learn the lessons of what works and what doesn't from market development. You know, what effect did the grants have versus the payments in the carpet program, and which you could apply that to any other material, right? And so whether it's CalRecycle's programs with e-waste, bottle bill, or individual product stewardship programs, there are market development lessons to be learned. And I'm hoping one of our main recommendations will really be how to structure incentives that really work. And so I definitely think we should be looking at them together, not siloing them.
All right. So is there a general agreement then that we stick with our 4 committees and just incorporate producer responsibility and the discussions throughout all of our market development? Everybody's good with that? If anybody isn't, put your thumbs down. Okay, looks like everybody's good with it. Thank you so much. And Kate, can you do me a favor? The second to last comment, who was that and what exactly? It was very short.
It was from Alfred TWU. I can look, sorry, I don't have his organization right now. Very short. Please help standardize what is recyclable or compostable in each city, especially those in the same county. Yeah.
So that's required by the law. So we'll definitely do that. Okay, thank you so much. So that, I believe, is it for public comments. We're at 8:48, right on time. All right, thank you very much, Kate.
Chair Sanborn, Chair Sanborn, I'm sorry, my asterisk was up.
You're right.
You know, going back to the comment about stormwater and chemical pollution and product stewardship, if each committee is going to be looking at what is working and isn't working within their parameters, but market development, would that committee have the power to say, okay, we need to look at a ban of zinc from new tire production? What would be the clearinghouse for those types of concepts? To me, it might be market development, in which case a lot of the EPR stuff could also filter through market development. It either can readily be done in California, or if it can't, and if it can't, it needs to go away, period.
This will all be bubbling up from the discussion of what we're required by law, because on that particular example, that really doesn't fit into our charter. So we just have to go, because zinc in tires is not a.
Well, let me use cigarette butts then as something we all deal with. I mean, a huge problem for most of us who are local government.
Right. So that issue, if somebody, I mean, if the commissioners raise it in a committee that they're on, like we're on market development, we could raise that, or somebody could raise it in the recycling committee. And again, the way I think this will all flesh out as we get to the committees, if that's okay with everybody, because we're going to kind of sort what everybody's doing in the committees and then what is due in the report. Okay, thanks. And I did want to, before we move on to number 3, talk about an issue that came up. And this is for legal staff. Is Tamar on? Oh. I'll start with a question then for the legal staff and a discussion with the commission very briefly, but it was brought to my attention by Commissioner Donlevy that an industry group was concerned about a conflict of interest by some of the commissioners to vote on their recommendation based on the financial interests of some of the commissioners. CalRecycle's legal advisor prepared a memo, which was sent to you yesterday, on how we would deal with this concern from some public members about our conflicts of interest or biases. And I just want to turn it over briefly to Tamar to review that process of how we're going to deal with this important issue. Tamar, are you on?
Yeah, I'm on. Yeah. Yes, so I sent out the memo with the details, but basically what will happen is if there's a conflict of interest that's raised, either a member of the public says that there's a conflict of interest, one of the commissioners believes that they have a conflict of interest, or even if another commissioner, then what we're going to do is, because you all chosen for all your varying viewpoints. And keep in mind that a bias towards the viewpoint that doesn't constitute a conflict of interest. Many of you probably know that. But you were chosen for that reason. And so Heidi, because you will be making a governmental decision and you're a public official, you couldn't really vote on the recommendations. However, Heidi and I came up with a way where we can at least get your opinion out there. And that would be during a discussion, or during a discussion on the issue of the conflict and when it's raised, then what you can do is you can state how you can participate in the discussion fully, and you should. But once it comes time to vote, you can state how you would have voted, but that you're gonna, how you would have voted, but you're going to abstain from voting because of the conflict.
So hopefully that's clear. So basically what we decided is legally we are, as commissioners, we are government actors at this point. So we do have to fall under the conflict of interest rules. But in order for the legislature and the public to know how you would have voted, which we think is what the intent was, because we want to send a signal of where everybody's going to be positioned. That's why we're all on this commission, knowing that we're all going to have some conflict at some point. We're going to put in the meeting notes, and we're going to be very clear about what it is that you said as the representative that with a conflict, even though you're not counted in the vote. Does that make sense? Yeah. If
Well,
it does,
I have one question.
oh, and I
on
had
that.
Kate, I think did you have something to say, Kate? You're in the chat box.
I had another public comment, but we can do it after this discussion if you want in this agenda.
Very
One
good,
came
thank
in.
you. And Mr. Lapis, did you have something to say? You're all set, okay. And then Mr. Davis, you had something, and then Mr. Segura.
Yeah, it may have been the same question that Ted was heading to, because for those of us in public agencies, certainly, the conflict of interest rules for public agencies are different in agency meetings. And I wonder if we could get some clarification about our need to declare a conflict if something we're deliberating may have an effect on local government finances.
You mean something that it has to be a personal financial, it has to be financial, it has to be personal. Personal can also count with family members or significant others or spouses. And then it has to be material. And the rules are super detailed, guys. I mean, like really detailed. So what I would ask you to do is, to the extent there's a question about whether, then shoot it up to legal so that we can discuss whether or not that's an issue. Cali PA is really, as most agencies are, very serious about conflicts of interest and also the perceived possible conflict.
Right.
Yeah.
So this is bigger than just what the law says. This is also about people on the outside that are going to dismiss our recommendations because they feel that we have a conflict. If we are not completely transparent about where our money is coming from or going, that could impact our decision making, we really are not doing ourselves a service if we don't release that and make it very public and put it in the notes, because people will use that against the decisions and recommendations that we make. I've seen it happen before. So that is where we're trying to follow the rules and be very fair, but also understand perception is also reality sometimes. Commissioner Osigura?
Yes, Chairperson Sanborn. I mean, my question is, maybe a little bit more clarity on what's going to be a conflict of interest. Obviously, I mean, this commission is composed of experts and folks that are stakeholders in, California regarding recycling markets. It's handling, processing, and markets. So every subject that we touch actually does, in some way, connect to all of us. I don't think it's any one thing. And so, I just want to understand that a little better. I understand that the regulation itself, or the statute regarding it, the conflict of interest, is broad, but I think we will need some clarity, or else you're going to have a lot of folks having to say, abstain, here's how I voted, abstain, here's how I voted, because a lot of what we're going to be discussing does touch many of our organizations, whether they are for profit, nonprofit, or stakeholders. So anyway, just just a comment on that. I would like to understand that better, because it's going to then create quite a bit of an issue when we're voting.
Okay,
You're
so it's
stating
not
exactly what I told Tamar.
so it's not a personal bias, and it's not just any conflict. It's one that is reasonably foreseeable that you will have a material financial benefit personally. So does that help?
So it's personally then.
It's always personally, yes.
Personally, got it.
Yeah, it's
That-
personally,
that's
and
a-
it's
that's a good
financial,
clarification.
and it's material. And then it has to be reasonably foreseeable that it actually would be a conflict. So the only thing that sort of popped into mind is if one of the recommendations you have are to use a certain facility or use a certain process, and you actually have an interest in that, then that could color your recommendation, even though it may possibly benefit you, it may actually be the right decision to make under the circumstances. So that's why, Heidi, we talked about the charter, but we don't want to like have it in the charter and have everybody now every day saying, oh, I think it's a conflict, I think it's a conflict, and we have to talk about it. And I also made the document privileged so that we don't give the public all of this. What we do is, as you go through your deliberations and your committee meetings and everything, and it's also only towards the decision that you have to make, rate policy or feedback. The votes on those, the things you're gonna vote on. Otherwise, you're free to disclose everything all your feelings about something. So I hope that helps. And if you have any particular issues raised, we'll just deal with those as they come.
Yeah, and I would suggest, because there's a lot of hands up on this, that we could gut into the rat hole on this one pretty fast on a million different examples. So what I would suggest is that I'll read through these comments, but and let people speak. But please, on case-by-case basis, if you have questions, just email Tamar and CC me so I can see it, and Richard, and we can get to the bottom of this for specific situations. There's going to be a million of them. We were all appointed because we're stakeholders in this process. We're all going to have conflicts or perceived conflicts by certain people who do not agree with our position. It's just the way it is. So we just have to be transparent and fair and follow the rules as best we can. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to.
I just want to say one other thing, Heidi. It should, sure. And it shouldn't be. I don't think it should be necessarily coming up to at the stage we're at now, because you don't have your recommendations yet. You don't have your vote.
No, we know that. Yeah, we haven't voted on anything material.
Right, and even when you're doing the document where you're updating as you come up with draft recommendations and getting feedback, we're not talking about that either. We're not talking about any of those types of situations. We're talking about coming down to a vote, and a recommendation is going to directly or is foreseeable and a material financial benefit. Then that's when it comes up. So I can't see anyone saying that because bringing it up now, because this is not the time. None of you have.
We're laying the groundwork on how we're going to play, so that when we hit the ground running on policy recommendations, we can really get going and make decisions quickly. So we're trying to get all this out of the way now on how we're going to operate. And it was already raised by one stakeholder, so we wanted to make sure we were clear and everybody was clear on how we're planning to handle it. So, but it's not going to come up until we actually vote on the recommendations that go into the report, is what Tamar is saying.
And then also, Heidi, I don't know that it's probably not necessarily now, but at some point maybe have an open agenda item, or we'll call it something else, but something where if something comes up in between, we can actually discuss those that are coming from the outside.
I don't understand. So in between meetings,
let's talk about it in our meeting today.
Let's not take
a way to do an agenda item maybe.
Okay. All right, Mr. Ward.
Move on.
Okay, Mr. Lapis.
Yeah, actually, my suggestion was going to be similar in that this is attorney-client material that does not have to happen in a public forum.
Right.
And not that we want to hide anything, but I also don't want to subject the public to this conversation.
I'm trying to move on. Yeah.
Yeah, we could schedule a time just with the legal staff and anybody who's interested. I would be interested, but it doesn't have to be a public part of a meeting.
I just wanted the public to know that we heard the comment and we want everybody to know we're going to do everything we can to follow the rules and be clear and that be transparent. And so that if they do have a perception that we have a conflict, they will now know that it's going to be in the notes what somebody's going to vote, but maybe they're not going to have their vote count for that particular item. Mr. Commissioner Potashner?
I'm withdrawing mine. I'm good.
Okay, Commissioner Schneider?
Pass.
Okay, and Commissioner Ward, your pass, move on, okay, withdrawn, okay, very good. So I think we got through all those. Thank you very much, and thank you, Tamara, for the memo. And again, this is the stuff that gets out of the way, so once we start getting into decisions, we can make them quickly and everybody knows. the
Heidi,
rules.
you missed one.
Heidi,
Jan is way.
Jan is waving.
Oh, I'm sorry, Jan.
Yeah, I had a asterisk. I just wanted to clarify one thing. It's not just personal gain. It would be professional gain as well. It's easy for me to say because I'm independent. I only get funds from National Geographic, but it's not just personal, like do I own stock in something? It's actually what professional, if I have a professional relationship as well. I mean, I do think we need to be absolutely crystal clean, clear cut here in order to get to real solutions that will benefit Californians. I don't think there's a PUC for waste, is there? And sometimes I feel like that's who I am, of really saying, you know, we need to find the right solutions for California. So it's not just personal, it's also professional conflicts of
The
interest.
situation that you raised though, is actually falls under the concept of personal. As a matter of fact, most of you, it's gonna be, it may have something to do with your profession, that there'll be a financial benefit to you too. So.
Thank you.
Okay, so with that, I think we're hearing that everybody wants to move on, but at least we've got it kind of laid out how we're going to operate. If you have specific questions, just email them to Tamara and CC me and Richard, and then we'll keep this going behind the scenes and make sure everybody knows what the rules are. We agree on them. Thank you. So now we'll move on to agenda item number 3, which is discussion in response to previous public comments. And this
Heidi,
is where we can.
I did have one more public comment that
Oh,
came
I'm
in
sorry.
for number 2.
I
No
forgot 'cause
problem.
we got into that so long. Go ahead, Kate.
Sure. And I'm going to cut it off at 500 words again. So this is from Daniel Veliquez, CEO of ENEREP, ENEREP. My name is Daniel Veliquez, and I would like to address the commission regarding the public health challenge caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. Waste/litter has increased since the start of the pandemic. The people of California are suffering the devastation of the economic and health consequences caused by COVID-19, but also another crisis is around the corner, and this is about the waste crisis, specifically plastics. The use of plastic has increased in numerous amounts. The plastic bag ban was lifted by the Order N5420, the Governor of California done by the Governor of California as a public health measure because of the risk of COVID-19 exposure for workers engaged in essential activities, such as those handling reusable grocery bags or recyclable containers. According to the latest report by CalRecycle, California fell behind the 75% recovery rate, and it had just a 40% recycling rate, comprising the state's recycling goal. Nowadays, most PET number 1, high density polyethylene number 2, can be recycled. Chemical recycling would expand the recycling to other plastics such as low density polyethylene number 4, polypropylene number 5, polystyrene number 6. Plastics can be turned into crude oil, diesel, gasoline, home heating oil, or other fuels, chemicals, waxes, lubricants, marine diesel, monomers, chemical feedstocks, diesel and gasoline blend stocks, or other raw materials or intermediate or final products such as a naphtha to make new plastic. Legislation that exempts recoverable plastics from materials classified as solid waste / provides for converting of recoverable plastics into valuable raw materials. States legislature that have passed and signed advanced recycling, chemical recycling legislation include Iowa with SF 534 in 2019, Tennessee SB 0923 in 2019, Florida HB 335 in 2017, Georgia House Bill 785, Wisconsin A789/S646, Texas with HB 1953 in 2019, Ohio with HB 166 in 2019, Illinois with HB 2491 in 2019, state legislature that have introduced plastic to fuel / petrochemicals legislation, Rhode Island with H5448 introduced in February 2019, South Carolina with SB 574 introduced in February 2019. Also, Delaware HB 184 introduced in June 2019, Pennsylvania HB 1808 introduced in September 2019, Massachusetts H820 introduced as H829. What states have done? Define the terms gasification, post-use polymer, pyrolysis, recoverable feedstock. Exempt/exclude facilities from solid waste by reclassifying them as manufacturing, more adept to its business core. This advanced method can also tackle tire waste in some situations. This technology does not use incineration. Their two main methods are gasification and pyrolysis. Nevertheless, the plastic recycling industry is in the brink of collapse due to the cheap oil prices in addition to the new plastic being generated because of the COVID-19 pandemic. Gloves, medical supplies, single-use plastic, illegal waste disposal, as well as more plastic litter in public places, parks, freeways, etc. As opposed to biofueling, including ethanol and biodiesel that currently rely on farm crops, plastic wastes are a potential source of new feedstock, hence avoiding new extraction and drilling of oil and gas, while at the same time reducing the greenhouse gas emissions and the resources needed to extract oil from to the surface. The problem, not all recycling gets recycled, as the AB 341 mandates. Advanced recycling technologies would align with the California Circular Pollution Reduction Act proposed in SB 54, because it would provide single-use plastic / non-recycling plastics. I'll stop there.
Thank you. So I would propose that all these comments that come in around conversion technologies just be automatically deferred to the recycling committee to prioritize and determine what they want to do with it. Is that okay with everybody? Or is anybody opposed to that idea? No? Okay, great. So oh, Kobe, do you have a nice suggestion?
Well, if I recall correctly, I think the committee had already disregarded similar comments and decided that they would not be considering that issue.
Well, we can't not consider a comment, but we don't have to respond, I guess, is the way it is, or we just have decided that that isn't the primary focus of this commission, I guess. Does everybody agree with that comment?
I don't. I think the commission as a whole should consider it if that committee does not want to.
Okay. Well, in that case, then that would be a referral to the recycling committee, I believe, to take up that group of comments and decide what to do with them, correct? Okay, so we'll go ahead, and Mr. Velasquez, your comments will be deferred to the recycling committee and for consideration as the committee decides to handle that. Okay, great. So we'll go ahead and I don't see any other comments in the chat box. And Kate, I guess there's no more public comment?
Not at this time.
Great. So we'll
Heidi,
move
I
on.
had a comment.
Oh. I'm sorry?
I had a
Can you
comment
use the
in
chat
the
box?
chat.
Oh, way back. Okay.
I just wanted to say that you know, the bill was very carefully written to make sure that it cites statutes that have clear definitions of recycling that do not include fuel production. So it would not be within the scope of this committee to recommend fuel production, with the possible exception of biomass under organics. So I just wanted to remind folks of that.
So the way the law was crafted, it's related to fuel production, but there's lots of different products that come out of some of these technologies. So it's everything except fuel.
Well, no, I mean, so it's recycling. We look at what is recycling, and as far as I'm concerned, if it's, and I think the way the law is written is, if you're making energy, fuel, you know, combusting it, destroying it, that's all disposal. If you're taking a plastic feedstock and making another plastic material out of it, that's recycling. The technology is a little less relevant.
Okay, and I'm going to make a comment. I've heard from several of you that these comments are taking too long and not necessarily the focus of this commission. So I'm going to make a suggestion that we drop our public comment time to 2 minutes, maybe even to 1, and then decide quickly if we want to hear the rest of it. Is everybody good with that? Okay, because I think we're all getting to the place where we realize we're sucking up too much time and everybody wants to comment. And if the whole country's commenting, we'd never get through our meetings and we can't stay on agenda. So with that, I'm going to start dropping the public comments, Kate, to about a minute.
Okay.
Okay. From here on out, so we can keep on schedule. Thank you, everyone. Okay, so we'll move on to agenda item number 3.
Chair Sanborn, I wanted to respond to the comments from Commissioner Lapis.
I'm sorry, I didn't see the chat box. Okay, go ahead.
That's okay, and I think it's our discussion that seems to be taking up a lot of the time on the public comments, and it is helping us to clarify to make sure that we're on the right track. The two concerns that I have with the comments from Commissioner Lapis, one is that, as he acknowledged, biomass conversion is a form of recycling, and there are a lot of products that are produced from conversion technologies. The other concern is more global. A lot of the discussions that we're having relate to proposed legislation that would change the law. And it seems like on this one narrow issue, we're saying the discussion has to be limited to only what's in current law. That doesn't really make sense to me.
Excellent thought. So I could just say this. This is a highly contentious issue. There's a lot of low-hanging fruit in front of us that we could probably decide a lot faster with a lot more agreement early in the process to get our report delivered by January 1st. So I'm almost thinking that this category of comments be almost put in a, not a parking lot, because it's not that we don't know they're there, but it's not the first stuff we're going to tackle. Does everybody agree with that? Or is there anyone who doesn't agree with that? So committees could take up any of these when they want to, but as a commission, we've got so many things that are in front of us that we could be resolving, and this discussion alone could completely divert us from a lot of work getting done in the short term when we've got kind of a crisis in our industry. And it's not that we don't care about it or we don't want to discuss it. It's just, in general, it's not the highest priority at this moment in time, and we can adjust that at any moment, and committees can take it up whenever they're ready. Does that seem like a fair way to handle it? Commissioner Sky, are you okay with that?
I recognize that we're seeking consensus and that there isn't consensus on the approach to this issue, but we're going to be addressing a lot of very challenging issues, and I would hazard to guess that this isn't the only issue that we won't be able to reach consensus on. So I don't know. I would like to have the recycling committee just take up the discussion and address the comments the way they were presented. And if they don't see any value in it, that should be their recommendation to the commission. But I don't know why we're carving this out as a special issue. There's a lot of issues that are going to raise a lot of concerns and opposition, and we should treat this the same way we treat everything else.
Agreed. So I'll go back to my original recommendation that we kick this to the recycling committee, and the committee can choose to pull a couple of members to do a subgroup. And my suggestion is that 2 people from that committee really dig deep into this and figure out how we're going to handle it and propose it to the commission, their committee, and that the committee, if they can agree, can then kick it up to the commission for the next agenda. Okay. Is that fair? Is everyone okay with that? Or is anybody not okay with that? Okay. All right. So that's how we'll go ahead and handle it. And we'll need to make that very clear in the notes, CalRecycle staff, please, that this conversion technology discussion get kicked to the recycling committee. They'll break it out into a group of 2. They'll come up with some proposal on how the commission handles this and bring it back to their committee, and the committee will bring it to the commission. Because we're going to hear more of these comments, and I just don't want to keep taking up our time at these meetings with all the comments on conversion technologies, unless we're, okay, very good. Thank you very much.
I believe
now,
we have one comment still from Ann Schneider in the chat box.
Pass.
Commissioner Schneider? You pass? Okay, very good, thank you. All right, so now we are behind, so we'll move on to agenda item number 3, but again, we're still laying the groundwork, and I know we can make it up. So we have discussion and response to previous public comments. And this is where committee chairs, we have kicked to you some previous public comments. If you'd like to report out now on how you responded to those, that would be great, real quick. So start with the Chair of Market Development, maybe Commissioner Davis.
Yeah, so I did reach out to the AF&PA lobbyist.
Please don't use abbreviations so the public can follow us.
Yeah, sorry, the American Forest and Paper Association offered to work with us, make a presentation on issues around paper recycling. I did reach out to them. They weren't available for our Market Development Committee next week, but suggested that we talk to ISRI, the Institute of Scrap Recycling Industries. And so we do have a presentation from ISRI scheduled next week, and the Forest and Paper Association offered to participate in either September or October meeting.
Great. And I think we also responded to Mr. Frank Farrell about the Build Infrastructure Now, and both John and myself and Mr. Osagura, we all talked with Frank, and we have set the BIN Summit for Wednesday, October 28th from 8 to 12. So you can mark your calendars if you wish to participate in that remote meeting of Build Infrastructure Now. And we've helped with the agenda, and we're excited about being supportive of the Stockton Chamber of Commerce and their green team. Anybody else? Any other chair of committees with response to comments? Mr. Potashner, I think you had some, and I think that's gotten resolved with the report being public. Yeah. So Mr. Donlevy, did you have any updates? Okay, good. Very good. Then we'll go ahead, and if there's nothing else on that, we'll move on to agenda item number 4, which is review and potential approval of meeting notes from the last meeting. And as we've said before, we're keeping these notes very, very brief and pretty much just a summary of the end discussion and the vote. And when I'm, saying to CalRecycle, please be specific about putting this in the notes, it's because we're keeping them that brief, but sometimes we need to capture some of the discussions that we're having. So is there a motion to approve or amend those? Okay, Mr. Ward, second?
Second.
And that was from, I'm sorry. Was that Jeff? Commissioner Osagura. Okay, great. So is there anybody, give me a thumbs down if anybody does not want to approve the meeting minutes as written. And everybody's a thumbs up? Excellent. Okay, so we can approve last meeting minutes and get those posted. Thank you very much, commissioners. Then we'll move on to agenda item number 5. Discussion of received expanded public proposals. Now, this was put on here to just allow in case somebody did submit one of the expanded public proposals we discussed last time. We sent it out. I hope all of you have sent it into your circles that we're requesting short as well as long and detailed proposals on how we address these policy recommendations. Have we received any long proposals or even the short ones, CalRecycle staff, since we sent that out last week? CalRecycle?
Let's check. Paulina isn't on here right now. Laura, do we know of anything in the inbox? I'm not sure we have gotten anything. I've seen no email circulated, but we will double check on that. Sorry.
Okay, great. Well, then we've just made up our 15 minutes. So there we go. But we'll keep this on because this by next committee meeting will probably be, or commission meeting should be very full. I know we said Friday is the deadline, our initial deadline, even though we'll take them ongoing. So I suggest we're going to make a lot more time for that on the next agenda. Moving on, we'll go to agenda item number 6. And that is, let's see. Do I have any comments? Is that Ted? Did you have anything to say or are you done? Okay. Consideration of committee guiding principles and potential adoption. So this item was discussed at length at the last meeting, and we finalized it, but we wanted to give the public time to have a thoughtful feedback. Have we had any public input, CalRecycle, on this item? Hello?
Sorry, I'm going to defer. If Laura, you're there, I apologize, everyone. I've been on vacation this week, so I have not been manning the inboxes. So I'm trying to check right now.
Okay, are there any public comments specific to agenda item number 6?
Oh, I'm sorry. Was that? I apologize. I was getting confused. There are no public comments to this agenda item. My apologies.
Okay. And do any commissioners wish to address any amendments or changes to these guiding principles that we discussed last commission meeting? Okay, I don't see anything in the chat. Oh, Mr. Ward.
Yeah, yeah, audio is working. I just wanted to throw out to the commissioners something that I thought was really interesting and you might want to research, which is the donut model of sustainable development that is being used increasingly across Europe. And it seems to overlap a little bit with the guiding principles. I don't want to go into the details because you can find it online, but it's essentially a framework by which we can discuss all of the different impacts of the policies that we move forward. I don't want to complicate things, but it seemed like a pretty good model that echoed a lot of what we tried to capture in the guiding principles.
Okay, because you know that when you volunteer stuff, you get to work on it.
Well, I know, and I'll build on that theme in the coming agenda items.
Okay, so if anybody wants to look into that with Commissioner Ward, please let him know. Otherwise, is there a motion to approve these as we had drafted them?
Motion to approve.
Okay, Commissioner Schneider, second.
I'll
If
second.
we're not changing, we need a motion?
I'm sorry. Oh, Mr. Segura, did you want to change the motion? Is that what I heard? No.
This is Commissioner Sky. I was just wondering, do we need a motion if we're not changing the guiding principles?
Well, we have to have a motion to adopt them
Okay.
because we are officially considering them for adoption now. So are you seconding? Commissioner Sky? Okay, good. So are there any, I guess like everybody give it their thumbs up if you're okay with guiding principles as we wrote them. Excellent. Are there any thumbs down? No? Okay, very good. Then we have a unanimous vote in support of our guiding principles potential and the adoption of those. And I want to thank again our Vice Chair, Commissioner Valle, for taking the lead on that item. Okay, so now we'll move on to agenda item number 7. Potential review and approval of changes to the charter. I'm going to propose, if we don't, that we just remove this from the agenda until to make room for everything else we have, because we're going to get more into the policy discussions in the future. So if everybody's okay with that, unless you've got changes, we'll just go ahead and remove this from future agendas unless somebody asks to have it put back on. And I don't see any motions to amend this charter. Nobody's putting anything in the chat box. So with that, we will remove this item from the next agenda. Very good. So with that, we are at 9:25. We had planned to take a break after this item at 9:40. Would you like to take a break or would you like to go into committee reports? You want to take a break? Okay, so we'll take a 5-minute break and then we'll come back and we'll start working right away on the committee reports, which is the meat of our work. I know we're excited to get to. So everyone, you might want to put on mute and turn off your camera and we'll see you in 5 minutes.
policy proposal. So they did say that in their subject line.
But that's not part of the drop down when you go to the.
It is not. They wrote it in as the subject.
Got it.
I have to say that workshop being the drop down, it's not intuitive that it's the Recycling Commission, and I worry about that. I'm getting a lot of people calling me with a lot of requests, and it's time consuming. Is there a way we could make that more and just
That
put Recycling Commission?
we have been discussing that, so I think that's something we're looking into, because Zoe's on here nodding her head. We've talked about that internally. Yes.
Yeah, we're looking to optimize our public comment portal for everything, since we use it for everything, and we realize that there's some functionality that we can improve upon. So we welcome those comments, and we will do what we can to make it better. It just is a lift from our IT team to get it done, but we understand it needs to be improved upon for functionality.
It's not intuitive to people. Okay, great. Well, I see commissioners coming back, and we are now at what is the time? My phone just changed. Looks like we're at 9:31, so we can come back to order. Did we ever get Commissioner? Who was missing? From Kern.
Commissioner Cadena was missing, and we weren't able to get a hold of her. I did send an email and attempted to call.
Okay, thank you. We'll check in on her and hope all is well. We've got fire so bad here, it's literally raining ashes right now in Sacramento. So it's a tough time in our state.
Same thing here.
So
Same thing here, Heidi. It's horrible ash.
Yeah.
And everything.
Yeah. Thoughts go out to everybody having to deal with all of this and the wildlife that have to escape. So we'll turn it over now to Cal Recycle and go back to agenda item 5. They did find a more detailed recommendation for us. So Kate, can you go ahead and read that into the record, please?
Yeah, apologies, commissioners. We have a short policy proposal from Chris Gilbert for achieving the policy goal in AB 341 Chesbro, that not less than 75% of solid waste generated be sourced, reduced, recycled, or composted, including addressing the needs for infrastructure, processing capacities, and permitting. Let me suggest that of the 3 ways mentioned in number 3, so that was number 3, achieve the policy goals, the most certain to have an impact and not fall short, as past measures have, is to concentrate on reduce, cut it off at the source, decrease packaging. Additional legislation may be required, but it is the surest way. Markets have a way of failing, so we have the current situation. For recycling, do what Germany does, require that companies take back their products at end of life for recycling/reuse, and that's the proposal.
Okay, so the proposal from Chris Gilbert is source reduction first and producer responsibility. So that's just a general comment for, I guess, all commissioners. Again, we've discussed that these things can be brought up in any committee. Thank you, Mr. Gilbert, for your comments. So we'll go back now to our agenda on agenda item number 9, committee reports. This is where committees, our 4 committees, will provide a summary of the previous meeting's work, and the commission will consider any policy recommendations that have a consensus vote of your committee to us. And I have no idea if any of you got that far, but this is the opportunity where you can explain what you're working on and when you plan to deliver policy recommendations to the commission. So this is where I believe we have a spreadsheet that the staff were going to pull up that I put together with the chairs of each committee, outlining basically what they said at the last meeting that they were going to work on. And this is for all of us to review and provide comments today. At every meeting, I would like to review this and have the chairs tell us, you know, what they would like changed, whether it's what you're actually going to provide recommendations on, or the dates you're going to plan to deliver those things. And you can see very quickly that we're going to get bunched up in October, November with a lot of recommendations coming to this commission, which means the commission meetings need to be pretty much cleared the decks. The only thing we're going to do is review policies for discussion and approval. But I would suggest to chairs, the sooner you can get something approved and to us, the better, so we can start this process, because it will evolve as to how we go through it and approve these policy recommendations. So with that, why don't we go ahead and start with the recycling committee. So we'll go ahead and turn it over to Mr. Chair Donlevy. And please explain where you are with your committee work, what you plan to do, when it'll be delivered, and any changes or updates you might have.
Okay, good morning, thank you. We plan on meeting again this Friday, and we're gonna have a couple stakeholders come in. We're gonna be talking to the aluminum can manufacturers, a representative from the Novelis mill, Paul Faraday from Strategic Materials, the only glass processor in the state, is also going to be talking. And then we're going to hear from an independent, I'll say mid-size processing operation, Cal Waste Recovery out of Galt, just some insights on what they've seen in curbside processing over the last few years, possibly talk about some solutions. We're going to talk about a material matrix on different items that achieve the 75% acceptance level, what MRFs are processing them. So we'll have a matrix that we can start to review, and then also look at a list of all the MRFs or processing facilities in the state on what they accept. So we should be able to combine the material list with the MRF list to come up with, I think, what would be a standardized list of what can actually be recycled in California. So I think through our meeting on the 21st, then more discussion on the 11th, we should be able to complete that by the end of September. I've also talked to the National Glass Packaging Institute, and they've asked if they could present to the entire commission just about the concerns of glass and the downcycling of glass. They've seen a reduction in clean glass supply with the closure of recycling centers and increase in curbside volume, which they have challenges. So I wanted to toss it out, see if we wanted to have a national organization present to the entire committee, or if we just schedule them for the recycling committee in September. So
I would ask is, I mean, I think we're all pretty clear that that's happening. Is there data that's new? Is there, I mean, because we all have a limited amount of time together. So
Yeah.
I guess we want to know and make sure we're clear on all the facts. If they have policy recommendations, we've asked for those to come through the portal. What new information, what information are we getting that we don't already have, or that couldn't be put through the public comment, I guess is my question.
I guess it would just be a chance for them to present the information. I think most of it we're familiar with, but provide a venue where if we had additional questions, we could ask them in person.
Well, my recommendation would be to preserve our time for policy deliberations and to have the committee decide. If you have specific questions for that group, you can email them to them and have them respond in writing. And then if that's not clear enough and you need it in person, you can bring them in. But it's up to the committee chairs how you wish to control your agenda. But knowing our schedule, if you don't watch, everybody's going to want to present to you and to us. So we have to really be careful about who we give the floor to, and is that information really what we need to make decisions, or is it new information or old information, or, you know, because if it's a policy recommendation, we can just take it through the portal and defer it to a committee.
Okay.
So it's really up to you. I would, that's my preference. If other commissioners want to weigh in, I'll look at the chat. What time is it? So I guess it's, is it Commissioner Schneider, are you next?
I guess so. Two questions. Chair Donlevy, when you talk about a list of recyclables, what's really recyclable in California, I assume that's based on 75% of the population, but could you also include how one defines that? Speaking, since I represent small government and smaller recycling programs, sometimes the big cities alone can dictate what is and isn't recyclable, and that doesn't mean it's recyclable to us. So just define how we're using that information. And then my second question is to staff. For those of us who aren't on recycling and composting, I listened in, but I think I had to search around for the agenda. If staff could make sure that they sent the agenda for all of the working committees to all of us, then we would know to go in and listen to, for example, the Glass Recycling Association, and not have to search around our huge email piles. That would make life easier for me. And I would love to listen in on glass, but happy to do it through the recycling committee.
And CalRecycle, I believe you are sending out all the agendas to the listserv, and all the commissioners are on the listserv, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah, so Ann, you are getting those directly emailed to you.
It might have happened
No,
during
the
surgery
commissioners
then
would
that I
have to
missed it.
The
I'm
commissioners need to sign up for the listserv if they would like to, and we can send a link out to that.
Please
It's on the
do.
commission's page. So this is a good reminder to everybody listening. If you want to get regular updates on what we're doing, please sign up for the listserv, because we're really using it as a communication tool to everybody, including the commissioners.
Chair Sanborn, I think it would be helpful with everything going on if staff could just send out another reminder.
I personally don't want any more.
I need the reminder. You know.
Okay,
I
well,
need
how
the
about
reminder.
this? How about this? Can we ask CalRecycle to please add every commissioner to the invitation to the calendar for the committee meetings so that we can observe and it's just on our calendar?
We can probably send out to the
But we
Cal
won't-
EPA link. Mhm. Sorry, go ahead, Laura.
No, I was going to say the same thing. We'll send out for the commissioners that aren't on the committees, we'll send out a secondary invite that doesn't have the go-to meeting information and instead has a link to the webcast so that you can attend that way.
That's awesome. Thank you very much. Much appreciated. And that'll make it easier for you to just get it right, clicked on your agenda, and you don't have to worry about it. Thank you so much for that suggestion. And our first comment was to, I believe, Chair Dunleavy, correct? Commissioner Schneider?
Yes, just I'm concerned about how 75%, how that 75% is going to be used.
Yeah, so there's a definition of what is recyclable, and it has criteria, 7 criteria. Is it accepted at 75%? Is it accepted at curbside programs? Is it accepted at recycling centers? Is the material sorted and separated and sold separately? Is it remanufactured into new items? Is it non-toxic, non-harmful? So those 7 items are, by the definition, Nick was able to provide that to us, and we've generated a matrix that we can just go down the list of all the material that we've seen in different recycling programs. Some of the programs, as an example, San Jose, Santa Clara County, even down in San Diego, have incredibly extensive lists of material that it's very questionable whether all that material is actually separated at the facilities, or it's separated to some extent and then sent on to secondary processing, which I don't think would meet the requirement of being separated. So those are the things that we're going to be discussing at the meeting, and how we come up with a list of what I think people would appreciate is a standard list of material that should be accepted in curbside programs. I think the easiest one is 3 through 7, probably not an item that meets the definition of recyclable, but it's something that we would say doesn't belong in curbside programs, but 3 through 7 should be taken back to buyback centers if it is a CRV item. The other 3 through 7 items should go in a garbage can. And if consumers aren't happy with that, not purchase it.
In the big picture, I would agree with getting rid of those, but here's the devil in the detail. My city can do black plastics. The JPA, which is right next door, which is most of the county, says that you cannot recycle black plastics. We can, they can't. And that causes a great deal of confusion for me as an elected official trying to educate the public or represent the public. So, you know, I'll see what you guys come up with, but because we're not one size fit all.
Right. I think this is a comment you've raised many times, Ann, and I totally agree with you. And I think that's why Ted's been invited to be on the committee too, to represent the rural communities that typically, like, cost effectiveness is the only focus. They get left out. And I think that all of us have to be highly conscientious that this producers sell things everywhere, and then the cost of recycling from everywhere is an issue for all of our programs. So we have to think about how we deal with the whole state, not just parts of this state, urban versus rural. Is that kind of what I'm hearing, Commissioner Schneider?
But it isn't just a rural urban thing. It can be a problem within urban, big and small, independents and the multinationals, dual stream versus single stream.
Well, those get into very complicated contracting issues and other things. So I don't know, Chair Dunleavy, do you have a suggestion on how you'll be addressing that, I assume?
Yeah, I think with our recommendation will be a standardized list, but not be a mandate. Because if there are local programs that have the ability to do certain items and they're truly recycling them as the definition outlines, to allow local jurisdictions or processors to add some value to their communities. But I think our standard list would be an opening to a lot of processors or jurisdictions to reduce the amount of items that are in their containers, because everybody's trying to add more and more material. But I think, as we found out, the additional material has created a cross-contamination issue, and markets have just disappeared. So our standardized list might be an opportunity to open those contracts to reduce the amount of material that goes in there, but again, not a mandate to every jurisdiction or every program.
Great.
Thank you.
Okay.
So that's
Are
it.
there other comments? Let me see. I've got a few other comments in here. Commissioner Ward.
Heidi, right now we have 3 meetings scheduled. I'm probably going to talk to our committee about scheduling another meeting just to start talking about policy, draft policy recommendations and how we would need to proceed. So just possibly a 1-hour meeting, tossing out potential policies to see what additional information we would need to get before we actually came up with a recommendation. So I'll probably ask that at the meeting on Friday.
Well, you are a key committee, and there's going to be a lot that needs to come from your committee, and we can't take up policies that aren't being, the way we've set this up, all the committees are delivering ideas to the commission for consideration. So it's up to all of you to go as fast as you wish to go, because we can't do the work of approving a policy recommendation for the report until we get them from the committee. So whatever you're comfortable with, the only limitation is just understanding CalRecycle staff may not be able to staff any more meetings, but that means all you do is just do it publicly through Zoom, and somebody's in charge from your committee to do that if they can't support you in that.
Okay. Thanks for the guidance. That's it.
Great. And these are the big deliverables then, the bottle bill, convenience zones, grocers' responsibilities, quality requirements, all these listed, and you plan to deliver them to the commission in October for consideration at the earliest by the commission, probably around November 4th, correct?
I would say that's a draft list. We would definitely review this at Friday's meeting and make any additions or deletions or modifications after that.
Great. Great, thank you. And then after your meetings, feel free to email me any changes to this, and I'll just keep this going and then bring it in front of the commission at every meeting, so you can everybody knows where we are at this point in time. Great. Okay, so let's move on to organics. Commissioner Potashner, do you have a report?
Sure. So as I reported at the last commission meeting, our committee has decided to focus on 4 areas: compostable packaging, food rescue and waste prevention, infrastructure, and then end products for organics around procurement and market development. Our first meeting on these topics will be this Friday, where we're going to delve into the compulsory packaging issue, where I imagine we're going to get into issues around definitions and labeling. We have a broad stakeholder group that will be testifying or presenting at that meeting around the department, local government, compostable packaging producers, and then local government, I guess a better name, and then compost operations. The intent is to have a robust discussion on each item, have the committee understand what's going on from the different stakeholders and the value chains of these different areas, and then come back to the commission in October with recommendations.
Okay, so you're looking at it very holistically. You'll hear all the different presentations, and then you'll discuss as a committee your holistic policy advice that will be hopefully delivered in the October timeframe.
Yep.
Great. Are there, and I assume that under each category you would flesh these out a little bit with different recommendations for each, probably?
Yes, yes.
Okay. All right, so I think I saw Commissioner Ward. Did you have a comment?
It was actually on the recycling committee, and
I'm sorry.
briefly just two ideas. Of course, I do wear the rural hat, and specifically the 75% recycling rate across the state will leave out a lot of the rural areas. So I want to make sure that we're not promoting statewide something as recyclable that in large parts of the geography of the state aren't. So that's one concern. The other thing is what the other pass. We'll leave it there.
Sorry, just put it back in the chat. I'm sorry I took so long to get to you. Commissioner Dell.
I can address my comments when I give the brief on labeling and education committee.
Okay. Great. Well, are there any other thoughts or comments or feedback to the organics committee? Okay, that's another big committee. We've got a lot of deliverables there. So thank you, Commissioner Potashner, on that. And we'll turn it over to Commissioner Dell to report on the Labeling and Public Education Committee.
Good morning, everyone from Southern California. Just an introduction, Wednesday is our pickup day here. And before this call, I took my two puppies out for their morning walk and have a phone filled with pictures of horrific contamination in curbside bins that I could show you. Look at all those plastic bags. This just horrifies me, and is one of the reasons I'm on this committee and leading this committee, because those plastic bags are such a health and safety hazard for MRF workers. I come from a chemical engineering background of running plants and doing operations. And for any of the major companies I've ever worked for, if there were the kind of safety hazards that you find in MRFs, we'd shut the plants down. And so this is so critical that we really communicate to Californians not to put this harmful contamination in these bins, because it's a danger. I seriously worry about MRF workers every day. And then after that, it's a huge cost. And so with that in mind, our committee made I came up with these, and I hope the committee members will agree. We can refine them in our call tomorrow if you'd like, but we made very crunchy kind of tasks and deliverables. Number one is to as soon as we can, fast, by mid-September, make recommendations for product labeling to stop the worst and most costly types of curbside contamination. I mean, there are just absolutely low-hanging fruit that we'll all agree, Ann, Ted, Kobe, everyone's gonna agree does not belong in a recycle bin and is a harm to workers. And so we're going to come up with some of those policy recommendations and hopefully get them to the commission soon. Stepping back from that, then we're going to look at statewide, system-wide labeling, get to some consistency. And my comment there in relation to the previous comments is I really think that we should all sort of reserve judgment on exceptionalism around my situation's different or this is different. And I appreciate that you have a history of having this be an issue. But when we really look statewide at what's going to pass that 7 criteria test, we've actually already done a study of all 76 MRFs on acceptances, and it really narrows down. And I'd like to give some assurance to Anne and Ted that actually, when you see this list of what meets the 75%, I think you're going to like it. So I think we all have, you know, life's experiences coming into this, but let's take the facts when they come along and really look at them and debate them then. But in terms of that system-wide labeling for not only products, but potentially curbside bins to match and make it really clear, we're waiting for the Recycling Committee to tell us what's recyclable, and then the Composting Organics Committee to tell us what's compostable. And then working with Cal Recycle on their existing education program, we really want to help define these key components for the public to understand how to recycle right. That's a Cal Recycle slogan. And then I just made this one up, working title, compost correctly. You can change it if you want, but we really need to get those messages out to the public to put the right things in the right bin. And then lastly, this last task actually works well to address a public comment we got at the beginning. I would like us to identify potential external partnerships, which could be Hollywood, it could be the media, to really promote statewide consistent messaging to help people recycle right and compost correctly. And so that public comment that suggested we reach out to the media, I do have connections into people who work in that space. It's a great idea, and we can put that on the list of potential partnerships. Any questions?
Great, thank you. Let me look and see if we have some comments. What time is it? 9:57. And so Ted, I think, who was first? I think Ted, Commissioner Ward. Do you have a comment?
I thought of what I had previously mentioned as I was listening to both Commissioner Donlevy and Commissioner Dell. It seems to me that we are probably headed towards a major reset of what's recyclable, what's compostable, and that while all of us don't want to take any steps backwards, we all recognize that the people who recycle everything aren't doing it right. And so we need to find a way to, in a friendly way, thank them for their efforts and refine those efforts so that the right things are getting into the right bins. But it seems to me if we do that kind of major reset, say 3 through 7 is no longer in our curbside program statewide, that kind of severe system change. Probably also going to be facing some of the issues about compostable plastics around the same time. And I just encourage the Labeling and Education Committee to start thinking in that framework. We are probably looking at a major system reset somewhere in the not too distant future following the report recommendations from this commission. So let's start thinking in those terms.
Great, thank you. And I know Commissioner Schneider asked if staff could increase the font size of the slides, and they're doing that. So thank you very much. Commissioner, or I should say Cal Recycle, I think you've got maybe some public comment.
We have one public comment. This is from Karen McNamara of Conscious Container. One comment, and this was, I'm sorry, in referring to the Recycling Committee, so Chair Jeff Donlevy. One comment on the Recycling Committee's upcoming agenda industry presentations. Strategic Materials is not the only CowRecycle glass processor in California. Please be aware Conscious Container is also a CowRecycle glass processor in California, collecting CRV glass bottles for washing and refilling. All commissions need to hear from industries both within the system and innovating the system as we bring forward fully vetted recommendations to our legislatures and the citizens of California. That's it.
Thank you, Commissioner Donlevy. I know Ms. McNamara has made these comments before about the making sure refillable bottles get their fair shake here as highest the best use of the glass. So is that something that you'd be open to allowing them to provide information to your committee?
Yeah, absolutely. So with that, we definitely want to include reusables in it. And then I just wanted to follow up with what Jan was saying. looking at the acceptable list, and again, I've said we've seen programs with 50 to 60 material types, and I think the general first look, the material list might be down to 15 items. 3 through 7, obviously an easy one. Aerosol containers, that might be something that is recommended not go into curbside bins due to fire risks, not only at the MRFs, but rejections at the mills. So that might be one. So I think we're going to get a very, very simple list, and it would be a major reset, and it definitely goes towards the composting people as well. I mean, something I'll present at the labeling committee tomorrow is I was at a beach town over the weekend just trying to avoid the heat, and the amount of plastic cups listed as compostable was obscene. And they have the small disclaimer that it says it's compostable in an industrial process, may not be available in your local area. And I'm pretty sure it's not available in that area. So I think the work that we're doing on the recycling committee, organics and compostable and labeling will end up offering an opportunity for a major reset. The challenge will be with the cities and the haulers, because I know the haulers are under incredible pressure to collect the material. And even if a curbside bin has a load of diapers on top, I think the message from city staff to the haulers is pick it up, deal with it later. But at some point, we're going to have a major reset and a focus on quality down to the curbside level. So there'll be some impact on the customers. And as long as we keep picking up the contamination, they're going to keep doing it. So I think we'll get some good information and hopefully provide an opening for a lot of the jurisdictions to help change the behavior that's been contaminating so much of our material.
So you're going to work at the recycling committee with the labeling committee to make sure things are labeled properly so we reduce contamination and bringing up refillables in the glass discussion. Awesome. Okay, thank you so much. Are there any other public comments?
No public comments at this time.
Okay, so is Commissioner Osage? Very good. I think we've got everybody's speaking points on that then. So any other thoughts by commissioners on the committee work? Who's delivering what?
Did you want to talk about market development?
Before, yeah, the one committee I'm on, I forget. Okay, and then I'll get into a discussion about data requests by committees of CalRecycle. We'll do that after a report out by Mr. Davis. Mr. Davis.
Yeah, so our agenda for Monday includes setting priorities around material types and or programs. So we expect to be able to deliver that to the September 2nd meeting of the full commission, and then giving your feedback, bring it back for final around September 16th. So that, it's pretty aggressive to get something at least fixed. I know this is going to be fluid. As I was listening to the organics committee report, there are a couple items that directly involve market development. Fortunately, Commissioner Cash is on the market development committee. So if you look at the next list, the numbered list, this is what the commission's required to report back to the legislature with recommendations. And, those are going to continue to evolve as the other committees' work evolves. But I'm hopeful that once we get our initial setting of priorities out of the way, that we can begin to draft those 4 items. And obviously, those items are the comprehensive picture from a market development standpoint. But when you read them, they really require us to pull together all the different things that we've been talking about. I have a copy of the Integrated Waste Management Board's 1993 plan, and I can forward that to anybody who likes. I will share it with the Market Development Committee, because they had that same obligation, I think it would benefit us to see how they address them. But basically increasing market demand for post-consumer waste materials, secondary materials, due to source reduction and recycling programs. So it's not just recycling programs and recycling in the broad sense, including composting, but source reduction specifically. Demand for recycled content products as opposed to materials, the distinction of products, especially high quality value added products. And then promoting efficient local waste diversion systems which yield high quality industrially usable feedstocks. So focus on the collection system, including promoting the competitive collection and use of secondary waste materials. That one caused me to go back and look and try to understand how Integrated Waste Management Board members, and that was Mr. Rellis and Chesbro.
Mr. Davis, can you speak up just a little bit? I'm having a hard time hearing you.
Yeah, I'll
Or just sit closer.
Yeah, I'm on my phone. So anyway, that's the charge, and so we will start drafting that to come back to you. But this is the one where I think the work of the other committees particularly begins to cross over, and we need to put it in the proper context for the report.
Okay. Then I saw one comment in the chat box, I think from Commissioner Schneider.
Chair Davis, I'm looking at this list and then I'm thinking of what I've already started talking to with the local elected officials in my county, which is also a rural county, believe it or not. It's all under fire right now. But what I would love to see in terms of new processing facility and capacity. So I am hopeful on our call tomorrow or Monday that we can expand on this. I know this is what the law says we can do, but I will tell you as an elected official, and I hope Supervisor Valle will say this, it is so hard to balance everything that you are hit with. If we really want to see new processing facilities get there, we have to push it up the political system. And we have to make the case of why it is important to keep these processing facilities as close to point of generation, greenhouse gases, everything else on there. I'm already working with a couple of my soups on this, but hopefully we can keep expanding this. This is, to me, this is not the final set of goals for the market development team.
Again, it's what we're required to address, and it's pretty general. So I think within the context of those goals, we do need to frame it at least in those goals. But yeah, we can address a lot of issues.
Excellent.
Well,
Thank
and
you,
I know
Chair.
that as a member of the committee, I actually asked for a report from CalRecycle on the state agency buy recycled campaign, because that's where we could create a lot of market pull and the state has control over it. And we might want to make recommendations on that. So these are kind of an outline of, just like the composting committee gave us an outline, but under each number, they're going to have, I hope, we start filling in very specific recommendations that the committees plan on bringing us. Having an outline of the bill is not enough. We're going to need to focus very clearly on exactly what we're going to deliver and by when, and then we can start, funneling it down to see, to the end of December, how we fit this all into the report.
The 1993 report looked at specific materials, and so they looked at, for example, mixed paper, and then it had within the mixed paper, each of these 4 goals was addressed with specific recommendations for that material. We could certainly structure it along the same lines with material specific and program specific recommendations, and how each of these goals are met within the recommendation.
Well, and I would just suggest again to every committee chair, you can get into paralysis of analysis. And at some point we got to start making recommendations. So you just have to really think through, we've only got like 4 months left. So just how you manage your time is going to be critical in this whole process. So I'll turn it over now to, let's see, I guess it's Mr. Lapis. Mr. Lapis, or Ted, did I miss you, Ted? Oh, you go ahead.
I just thought I'd notice, I think how we tell the story is really important in terms of how well these recommendations land to the audience who's reading the recommendations. So I'd like to offer my help to the chair to try to set the context for some of these things as we develop the reports, particularly for the organic section, but I'd be happy to do that on any of the sections, just because I think it's so important to set the context and tell the story, in addition to making the recommendations, but really to set the background and the frame. So at least we have a text we can all review and say, you know, is this the story we'll agree to? But then that sets the context for each of the recommendations. I think that's an important part of the.
Thank you. And we can discuss that on agenda item 12, because I did start an outline of the report and I would love help on setting context. And maybe, you know, each committee could also provide a context or assign to somebody to help with the context from the way they want to frame it in the report as well. So sounds good. Are there any other comments? Commissioner Lapis?
Yeah, I just thought it would be helpful to let folks know that there is a bill that's moving through the process that should pass in the next week that changes our timeline a little bit. It has us creating preliminary recommendations by the end of this year with the more detailed report in July of next year. So I think the key thing we need to focus on is getting recommendations ready as opposed to trying to write a volume on all of these issues.
Yep, I would agree, Nick, because the legislators, they're going to basically take the ball and run with it, and we're going to give them a framework, but they talk with Leg Council and stakeholders and do a whole bunch of, you know, so it's up to us to decide. I think the main thing is we give them some recommendations and as much detail as we wish to give them, and then they will ultimately run with it, and CalRecycle as well.
Yeah.
But I would suggest that I think all of us got on this commission with the assumption as a report due in January and wanting to really buckle down and get it done. So as much as we can get done in January, I think everybody, I'm seeing heads nod that we're all in the place we want to get something out there as quickly as we can, as much as we can. And I know you're all committed to that. So thank you. Okay, are there any public comments on this item? CalRecycle staff?
There are none.
Very good. Then I'm going to say great work on the committees. Thank you all for your leadership and everybody just keeping working hard. It's going to work with everyone working like this. And I did want to say that we had some committees requesting data, which became a bit of an issue for CalRecycle. So I had a nice talk with the CalRecycle staff. So we wanted to agree on a process that is fair and transparent, if this is okay with all of you. We thought that we should agree on a process for data requests from CalRecycle that are official from the commission. So what we decided was that we would like to defer that committee chairs from the commission. We are deferring to committee chairs to be able to do direct data requests to CalRecycle for their work in their committee. But their committee has to agree at the next meeting to hand, or the one after, however the agendas work, to hand that authority to the committee chair. Otherwise, you have to vote on it in each committee. Then the committee chair asks for, but we have to defer as a commission to the chairs in order to do this, because what's happening is it's bypassing, the requests are bypassing the full commission. And Zoe is going to keep track of all the data requests in order, and she's going to share it with us at every meeting. And then if she can't get the data for whatever reason, it's taking longer on this one, whatever, then the vice chair and I would work with the CalRecycle staff on prioritizing or reprioritizing based on what we've heard all of you say. So does that seem like a reasonable process? Are there any thoughts or comments on this? And CalRecycle, would you like to weigh in on this, Zoe?
Heidi, you captured our conversation very well. We want to be able to be responsive to data requests, and by having a process in place, it will help us prioritize and get those turned around, because some can be very intensive, and we just want to make sure that we understand the greatest needs of the commission for you to be able to make your recommendations. So thanks, Heidi, for that overview, and thank you for proposing.
Okay, great. So I guess what I'd like to do is make sure we have consensus on the process and everybody agrees that this is the right way to handle data requests. But I thought we could move faster if we've delegated to the committee chairs to ask for the data, but then the committees have to vote to give the chair the authority to do that on their behalf ongoing. Is everybody okay with this process, or is there anyone who would like to speak? It looks like I've got a couple comments here. Nick, were you up next?
Me, and I was going to make a motion to delegate the authority from the commission to the committee chairs to request the data and for that to be validated at each of the committee meetings.
Great. Is there a second on that? Or Commissioner Ward, did you have a comment on that motion, or?
Yeah, I'll both second and comment that if data request is not denied at any committee, that if a commissioner feels really strongly that it needs to be brought forward, that it could be brought back to the full commission.
Correct. And you could always have the committee chair bring up that dissenting opinion at the commission report outs.
Sure.
Okay, so with that, we have all thumbs up on the process that we're going to delegate to the committee heads for data requests. Great. Awesome. Is there anybody who's opposed? Thumbs down. I don't see one. Excellent. So we have consensus on that process, and that's how we'll keep moving quickly. So Zoe, then could you do me, have you started that list, and is that something you can share now?
We have started the list. Team, is that something we're able to share now?
I could take a bit, it would just take a minute to pull it up.
Okay, I think we have it, and I think it's important that everybody see what we've asked them to deliver and that the world sees it, and we should probably just put it on every agenda that we're going to review that data request list to make sure everybody knows what we're asking for and when we're getting it.
And maybe while Laura's doing that, I can read the public comment that came in on this section. This is from Susan Collins of Container Recycling Institute. I think it was in reference to the spreadsheet that was up. The document shown on the screen at this meeting is too small to be seen by attendees. Even now that the font has been enlarged, can this document be sent out as an attachment through the listserv? It's frustrating to attendees to show it as is.
Okay, we plan to post it. So CalRecycle, the commissioners did not make any changes to it. So can you please post it to the website as soon as possible?
Yes. Yep. We'll do that.
Or send it out through the listserv, both would be fine. And then what we can do is every single meeting, as you all amend that spreadsheet, we'll just keep updating, putting the updated version on the website so that everybody can track our progress and know exactly what we're doing and when we're planning to do it. Thank you. Okay, so this is the data requests list, correct? And I can hardly see this one too. This is pretty small.
Yeah, apologies for this. It's a lot of text to be able to share. Let me see if I can.
Maybe what we need is just a very short list, like in order it came in, and then which committee, and I'm getting feedback. And the general data requests without all the super detail or something. I mean, or we could just post the whole spreadsheet as well so that everybody can see it easier, since it's hard to share on Zoom.
We can attempt a different format next time.
I'm sorry, I couldn't understand.
I was gonna say we can attempt a different format next time, but this is, can people see it now? Is this large enough? Or
it's showing the top of your screen, which is kind of cutting into the size. I don't know if that's possible to change. It's real. We're just seeing a little corner of it. Yeah, I mean, we can't really see the whole thing. I think what we should do is just go ahead and post it as soon as possible. Send it out to the listener, And then the commissioners, what we'll do is have you all check it and make sure it's included everything you've already asked for. I'm getting feedback, and I think it's from Zoe, but I'm not sure.
I think that's from Laura's.
Apologies.
No problem. Just to confirm, so we were, Susan Collins' comment was in reference to that spreadsheet of objectives and deadlines for the committees. So are you also discussing this document? Would like to
Yes.
post, is that what you're saying?
The same, it's the same problem. We're gonna have the same comments. So it just makes me think that we should just put them on the website. And again, we're shooting for full transparency. So this is the data request that CalRecycle has received, the date they came in. If we need to change them and we should have the proposed date of delivery to the commission or reporting back to the commission. And if those dates change, that's important for the commissioners to know because they're maybe basing their decision-making on the timely responses to their data requests. So it might be good to have not only the date received, but the date CalRecycle plans to respond by. And if you can't, we just keep adjusting that, just like we do the other spreadsheet on deliverables as things get flushed out. Does that make sense? Chloe?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right, because this is very hard to see. It's cutting off and I can't read it either. Okay.
I may just
well,
hop
we
in
have a
real
process.
quick.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
If I may just hop in real quick. So we'll update also the format so it's easy to read for posting or for sharing the screen. But as far as prioritizing between the committee requests, since the delegation's been given to the committee chairs, would that happen at the full commission meetings? Because we want to make sure we're being as responsive as possible, but we might need some help with prioritization of all of the data requests that come in.
So that's if we review this on every agenda where we're talking about committee report outs, we're reviewing what the committees are doing and adding and changing deadlines, and we're going to look at the data requests because they tie together. So I think on this item, we'll review and adjust both, and we can do it together. Richard and I can take a stab. If you guys disagree, then you can let us know that. That sound reasonable?
Absolutely. Thanks, Heidi.
Okay, great. So thank you. And we'll look forward to seeing those documents posted so everybody can read them. There's so much information, it's hard to get on the screen. Okay. So we are now, it looks like at 10:23, and we have really completed agenda item number 9. We had originally planned to take a break and not be done with this item until 11. I think we're ahead of schedule, which is a good thing. And I'd always be happy to cut a 4-hour meeting short if we got all our work done. So if you're okay, can we proceed on to the next item instead of taking a break? Thumbs up? Okay, great. And we're going to move on to agenda item number 11, which is we planned for 20 minutes on this to review and discuss pending and proposed legislation relating to the commission's mandate. And the commissioners may discuss current bills related to recycling and waste management. Last commission meeting, we had 5 bills. The Ting bill on market development and recycled content, AB 793. So we can start with that one. And then if we get through these, the list that I have, and you have more, then we can talk about those then. Did anybody have any thoughts on AB 793 they'd like to share with the commission and the public? I don't see, do I see any comments here?
Hey, Heidi, I put a asterisk.
Or sure, Nick, go ahead.
I just, for again, in the spirit of trying to reduce our 4-hour meeting, maybe we should just leave it open, see if anybody has comments on any of the bills, because I don't think much has changed in the last 2 weeks, and I don't want to be repetitive.
Gotcha.
I think we could, my feeling is we'll probably end up skipping this whole section.
Okay, well, I did want to weigh in on the Ting bill that I'm hearing that there's a push to increase the amount of recycled content from 10 to 15%. I think it's by 2025, which was the first deadline. And I know that our organization is going to support that, that we think we need higher recycled content earlier in order to really get the markets driven. So that just wanted to put that out there. And Mr. Dunleavy?
Yeah, with AB 793, I think there's a lot of support for it. It will definitely help the recycling centers out by creating more demand for it. The one comment that I've heard is unless there's major reform to the bottle bill, there is a concern from the reclaimers and the manufacturers of being able to hit the higher levels. I think the lower levels going from 10 to 15% is achievable now, but unless there's major reform, they may not be able to hit the higher levels. So hopefully it'll pass, but we got to follow it up with bottle bill reform.
That's your committee, so great, thank you. I'm not seeing anybody else in the chat room on this bill. Are there any other bills that you wish to comment on? There's the big SB 54 out there. Did anybody want to speak to that? It was narrowed down to plastics only recently and just made public. And that's got a short window, Nick, I believe, of only a couple weeks. And it's going to appropriations first, correct?
No, it's already on the floors of both houses, so it doesn't need to go to any more committees.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Okay. Well, that's a big bill. I figured somebody would want to talk about it.
So logistically speaking, we have until the end of this month for bills to pass or not pass. So short of a special session after that, I think we can probably at the next meeting just more or less do a recap of what did pass and how it affects us.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then actually, maybe one more thing. I don't know if this is legislation, but the ballot measure is definitely very, very related to what we're working on. And the committee did submit signatures last week. So it looks like they have enough signatures and it looks like it's going on the 2022 ballot. And the reason why I think it's incredibly relevant is as we're proposing some of these market development programs, that could be the funding source for them. So having the programs worked out and developed and ready to go for when that plastics tax money starts rolling in, I think would be very effective.
Mm-hmm. Good point. Any other bills anybody wants to discuss? Legislation?
Sorry, Nick,
I guess I'll just bring up. Oh, sure.
Sorry, for clarification in the notes, did you just say it will be going on the 2020 or 2022 ballot?
2022.
Okay, thank you.
So I'll just bring up that the bill that our organization, I'll mention the bias, co-sponsored with the sanitation agencies, really doesn't relate directly to this committee in that it's labeling of flushable wipes. But in the labeling, because they're not flushable, many of them, we did get agreement with Kimberly-Clark and Procter & Gamble and many of the companies that produce packaging. So it's a good model on how to get agreement on labeling with big industry groups on packaging. So you might want to take a look at AB 1672 by Assemblymember Bloom. And we did get, it looks like all the barriers out of the way and it's on consent and it's just going through, thankfully. But it is the highest bill, it's the most important bill in the nation on those wipes because they are breaking into microplastics into the water system. And it's obviously something we all care about. And I see a couple comments. Go back here. Was it Commissioner Ward? Are you next?
Yeah, I'm also grateful that the AB 1672 is moving forward. Our local agents supported that. I'm wondering if the advent of making it onto the ballot in 2022 has changed the tone of the discussion for SB 54. Mr. Lapis?
It has, although I could probably give you 15 different variations on how it has positive and negative, and I'm not sure which of them are right.
All right.
Okay, Commissioner Schneider?
Chair Sanborn, I'm not familiar with that legislation, but any government that runs a sewage treatment plant, they've been really horrible to us. And with COVID, it's been one of the main messaging we've had to have. Is there a way that you can send that out so that we can help, especially if it gets to the governor's desk? Or do you think it's going to be a smooth ride?
Yeah, I mean, we send it out to the CRA listserv, we send it out to our members, and anybody, but you could, I've got a sign-on letter, it's already been submitted, we can update it, and I can certainly send it out to the
If you send it to
But
me,
you can
I
just
can send- oh, I'm sorry. If you send it to me, I will get it to the League of California Cities.
I think they've already signed on, but they've already told me they support it.
I know, but I'm already working with them, given that I'm a local government rep, but we will get our cities to help send those support calls through.
Okay, thank you. And that's the reason it's going is because of COVID, because people got really excited when they couldn't find toilet paper to buy wipes. And then the wipes are made of a cellulose that, and other plastics that don't break down. And so the sewer systems are clogging all over the state, and it's becoming a huge, expensive mess and causing leakages and getting fines of the sewer district. So I'll go ahead.
They're also ending up in storm drains too. So for both of those, anything I can do to help, let me know.
Thank you. Anybody else? Commissioner Dell?
Pass.
Okay. All right. And the labeling, just so you know, is about words, and it's about monikers, and it's about contrast and size of those monikers. So there's lots of ways that we can work with industry to come to agreement on proper labeling when it comes to packaging, to make sure people know what to do with these things at end of life. And I think it's a great model for us to build on for next year. Okay, there's nothing else on item 11. Why don't we just keep moving then, and we'll go to item 12. Item 12 is discussion of scheduling and processes for reporting to the legislature. And I had offered to at least start with Commissioner Valle, and I was late again. I've had a lot of late meetings at SMUD lately. So I didn't get a chance to share this with him much before the meeting, but this is just for everyone to discuss the draft outline of what this report or policy recommendations will look like. I just took a stab at it, and I'm completely open to any suggestions. Thought we'd just go through this together, and you all can provide us some comments. So we can even track changes. Hopefully CalRecycle can track changes live on this, as we've done before, which is extremely helpful. So I just started with the statewide commission on recycling markets and recycling policy recommendations report. And obviously, thinking that we're reporting to policymakers, it's probably a good idea to start with an executive summary after we get this done. The next agenda item was a little background about the bill and the charter that we had to set the context. Item 3 is the policy recommendations, and I pulled these really straight from the bill. So it started, the categories are market development, waste reduction, methane emissions, defining products that are recyclable and regularly collected, defining products that are compostable and regularly collected in curbside programs, and then the recommendations to CalRecycle on messaging to the public designed to encourage proper recycling and minimize contamination. So the meat of the report is that section. Do you think that I missed anything there? Is there something else? Because obviously there'll be a lot of subheaders in these, but I don't see any hands. Oh, Commissioner Davis, did you?
No, I think I'd like to get a copy of this. So, and I would think at the committee levels, we want to see how our work's going to flow into the final report. So, I take it this is a working draft, I assume. So, but I think it would be good to discuss it at the committee level.
Yeah, no, this will all be posted, and this is our live, just if you see anything that's glaring, but this is a work in progress, and we're going to have this on the agenda basically at every meeting, in that we're going to start slotting as the commission, hopefully starting at the next meeting. Hopefully there's some committees that are coming to some agreement on policy recommendations, can give them to the commission, if we can agree on something at the next commission meeting, it would be slotted into this format. If we agree that it needs to be changed, then we'll change it live. And every single time we do this, so this is what I call the live working document of the report, in that it's not going to be a surprise what's delivered in January. Everybody knows what's in it. And then the third item, major header in the report, would be the interplay of recommendations and how they work together, because I had a feeling that we should probably think about that as a commission, and also provide to the legislators how we see this all working together, that we have thought that through. And then lastly, our process that we'd like to develop on how we provide updates on these recommendations. They are required at least annually, but my recommendation is that we give it to them as soon as we can agree on changes, so that CalRecycle and the policymakers, again, can move quickly and we don't have to wait to submit a report. And then the summary.
Hey, Heidi, I had a comment on earlier section and asterisk.
Sure, go ahead.
Not major, but on the organics and the 1383, the bill does also say that in achieving those goals, they're supposed to reach an edible food goal of recovering 20% of edible food for human consumption that's currently being disposed. So just want to make sure that's in there.
Oh, thank you. Excellent. Great. Okay, so I'm trying to figure out where we left off on comments. Was it Commissioner Ward or Commissioner Sky?
I've got one, definitely. So in light of the waste reduction section, I just think it's probably worth mentioning and separating out support for existing programs and infrastructure as separated from goals to expand to 75% recovery, because for instance, buyback operations are part of our existing recycling infrastructure, and support for those is critical to continuing to have clean streams, for example. They're all called out in our local source reduction recycling element as programs that we plan on continuing. So it's part of the overall 75% goal, even though it's not explicitly called out. It's exactly what local governments have been called to do since 19.
So the specifics, to me, that would go under number 1, source reduction strategies. Is that correct? Or is that
well, it's under source reduction, recycling, and composting strategies. It's all the AB 939 programs that brought us to 50%. And now we've got additional stuff, whether it's the mandatory recycling ordinance, mandatory commercial, organics recovery, all of those are added on to the existing programs. But as we focus on those new and expanded programs, we can't lose sight that we've got these existing infrastructure that we've got to continue supporting. That's part of
recommending that we also offer, beyond what the law really said, that we also offer our ideas on how to support the existing infrastructure.
And I maintain it's absolutely not beyond what the law said. The law said that we're supposed to find recommendations that have us achieve the 75%. Well, that's building upon the AB 939 programs the local governments have already invested.
Then I wonder if we, let me see. So under waste reduction, not less than 75%.
So, and I just separated into existing support for existing programs and expanded in new programs, and just.
So would it be more like this? It's just another category.
I'm okay with that, and we just expanded source reductions, recycling strategies, expanded recycling strategies, expanding composting strategies.
Well, I have a question on that. So why don't we incorporate, because I just assumed we were doing this anyway, incorporate in source reduction the support for the existing source reduction activities happening and expansion. So that way it's kind of buried in those 3. It's part of what we're doing.
It's okay. I just am concerned that we lose sight that this is what we're building upon and that it has to be supported, and we can't just build over the top of it.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I'm thinking just the process wise, how we do this best. And maybe somebody else has a suggestion on that. Is there somebody who wants to chime in specifically on this, on how we do it? Because I just don't want to get too complicated on the, I'm trying to figure out how to simplify this and keep it clear. So waste reduction, why don't we put, well, this is just what the law said, but we could say not less than 75% generated must be source reduced, recycled, composted. And we say, so it's support for existing and new, well, no, sorry, don't type yet. I was thinking about on number 1 on source reduction strategies, on each of these strategies, just saying that this is going to be for support for existing and recommendations on new strategies for each of these: source reduction, recycling, and composting.
I like the way that you've got it currently, where it's a separate thing, because so many of those programs have been established by local government and they are local programs, and we're talking about larger statewide strategies. So I think separating it out into new and support for existing is a fine way to go about it.
Should we put the support for existing first?
I like that.
So that would go ahead of source reduction.
Though source reduction is the thing that's been underplayed, of course, we all know that.
Right, that's what I thought too. Okay, so we leave it like this then. So we're adding support for existing programs.
That's fine.
That's a good idea. Okay, thank you. And then the next, I think Commissioner Sky's next.
I believe that Commissioners Dell and Davis were ahead of me. If they no longer want to speak, I can go.
Go ahead, Commissioner Dell. I'm sorry, I'm trying to get caught up here. It's hard to tell from the dates. I'm getting to that place again where it's hard to tell.
Yeah, quick snaps. You're doing a great job, Heidi. So I don't know if I can't see it, but I saw below there was something about, scroll down, defined. Yep, someone added E. I'm good. I just wanted to see E. D and E should always be in parallel. Thank you.
Okay, so after Commissioner Dell, was it Commissioner Snyder?
Back to the source reduction section. Those of us who fought for reuse, we would prefer source reduction, reuse, recycled and compost. In there, it is a different animal. When you talk about support for existing programs, a great deal of the reuse and resale infrastructure is private. Some of it's nonprofit. Most of them are highly at risk, both because of COVID and just the difficulty of maintaining a retail business, period, but also because they often don't get the same support that recycling programs get. So one hopes that out of market development, all of us recognize the importance of for-profit or not-profit reuse industries. And it's not reflected here.
Okay, so what would you like? What's your suggestion?
Well, I would put reuse after source reduction, source reduced, and
reuse and repair. Sure.
Reuse and repair. You know, we argued this when we had the old Reuse Repair Council and fought for resale because, you know, just like if you don't turn it into a product, a recycled material into a product, if you don't resell it, you're not really doing anything. So that's just going into the weeds on repair, reuse, resale. My other comment, and if
well, wait a minute, before we go, I just want to check with other commissioners. Is this okay with everybody by adding reuse and repair strategies and calling those out separately? Is there thumbs up or thumbs down or anything? Thumbs up, okay. Because I'm seeing a lot of like neither, so I'm not sure everybody's with us. I just want to make sure.
It
who haven't worked in it. Resale businesses, especially if you're looking at construction demolition, need a lot of land. Now, if you're in a place where land is cheap, okay, but I'm not sure there are many places in California left where land is cheap. Most of them are going to be outsourced. Here in Silicon Valley, no business can compete with what Google can pay for land. So we need to be thinking of land banking. We need to understand that these businesses are as important as a sewage treatment plant.
Okay, so I'm seeing thumbs up that we leave reuse and repair strategies in because they are pretty much separate from source reduction. And it's part of recycling as well, because we have to design for reuse and repair and then recycling. And okay, so if everybody's okay with that, we'll leave that in there. And I'm sorry, did you have another suggestion, Commissioner?
I did. It's kind of near the bottom, Chair Sanborn, and I'm not sure I can articulate this, but most of you live day to day in the solid waste field. I no longer live in that world. Now, as a former staffer of San Jose, every year we sent to council a set of goals for how much procurement we were going to do. Did we achieve our goals, et cetera, et cetera. Now that I'm with a small city, that does not happen. So we're setting goals for the state of California and for the Assembly and the Senate to do things, but it is really the responsibility of every local government to be procuring items, to be no longer buying disposable pens, et cetera, et cetera. So I don't know if there's a way on the very last page of also bringing, where it says here, interplay of recommendations and how they work together, but also how what happens at the state level should be working at the local level. Most of us get really complacent because our garbage companies do everything for us.
Okay, so you're suggesting that we focus on what local governments can do as well.
Correct.
And
they will hate me for that, but it needs to get
okay,
it needs to get to we, because we set the budgets.
Okay.
If we're not hearing about it, we're not setting the budgets.
Do any commissioners have a thought on that? Is that, let me look at the chat box and see if I can keep this up. Commissioner Ward, do you have a comment on that, or? Okay.
I think in general, it would be useful to have some end catch-alls for building on that. I think it would be useful to list potential external partnerships and specifically additional research, analysis, information, and model tools. And it could just be sort of almost an appendix at the end, but our charge is so great and so vast, inevitably we're going to come up against something where we know we don't know, and we should identify those data gaps. And I think that they'll come up, and if we put a placeholder for them, then at least we can, in a more forthright way, saying this is recommended based on what we know, but we're really looking for more information on this aspect here.
Okay, so the suggestion would be to address that in an introduction, or?
No, at the end.
Next steps?
It's almost like an appendix, but I would add the additional needs for research, analysis, information, and model tools.
Okay, I think that would go before summary next steps, but yes.
That would be fine. It's just somewhere at the back as a placeholder.
Okay.
Can you repeat that, Commissioner Ward? Additional
Sure.
needs for?
Additional needs for research, analysis, information, and model tools.
Okay. So is everybody okay with that change? I'm seeing thumbs up. Everybody's all right? Okay. All right. Thumbs down if you don't, but I see no thumbs down. Okay, so the next, I think it's Commissioner Sky. Did you have a comment?
I wanted to better understand your concept for Section 2, because it looks like there's going to be a lot of content there. And I would suggest that this, of course, is driven by what's in the law, but it seems like the recommendations themselves we'll try to kind of slot under each of these subheadings. I would recommend instead that we change section number 3 to group all of the recommendations in section 3, and the current heading for 3 be a subheading.
Okay, I would before we make the change, I would like to suggest that I would propose we do a spreadsheet at the end as an appendix that is a very clean, short and dirty policy recommendations list. And even we could put in even proposed dates, like some of these might need to go in order for things to happen. So, and this will force us to actually think this all through for them so they can see how everything plays together. And then that way we don't have to change this already very bulky section, but it could be a reference from the section to a spreadsheet that kind of summarizes everything in one place. Would that meet your needs?
I agree we should also do that, but my concern is if we're trying to put recommendations under each of these, getting more and more detailed categories, and some recommendations are going to be related to multiple items, it's going to get very unwieldy. So I would suggest there's a lot already of content that we're going to include in section 2, that the recommendations follow immediately after, and we group all the recommendations and we can tie them into all the different areas that they connect to.
I guess I'm not understanding. So the recommendations would not be in section 2?
That would be my suggestion.
So what would go in section 2 then?
It would be the discussions of those different issues, the work of the committee, the presentations, the data that we've covered, and then the recommendations would be immediately following.
Okay, because the goal that we've started with so far, and everybody's been okay with, is we're not even documenting in our meeting. We're not doing really meeting. We're doing a summary because at the end of the day, people just want to know where we landed. So we're not going through every little thing and discussion that we have because documenting that is going to get very, very time consuming. So my thought was there could be little intros about the big discussions that we had to have in order to get the recommendation, but this section to me was the recommendations. They would be slotted under everything, and then we could pull it all together in a spreadsheet. But I'm completely open to what you're suggesting. And there's other people with their hands up. I'm not sure if it's about Commissioner Sky's proposal. Commissioner Kalpikoff, did you have a different issue or was it on this one?
Let me just say then, if that was the intent of section 2, then we should probably have a final section that are, cross area recommendations that cover multiple areas.
Well, that's item 3.
I
At
thought
least
that
was
how
my intent, maybe it wasn't clear.
Yeah, I read that as how recommendations intersect with one another that are specific to those categories, but there'll be some recommendations that transcend or cover multiple items.
Maybe we should reword this then, because my intent was that it's showing how everything interlocks, even if there's more than 2 interfaces, because I think a lot of these things, it's more than 2. And the thing is too, if we get this so complicated, it's going to be hard for the people reading it to understand what we're doing. So it sounds like the thing that we're all on the same page on is a spreadsheet attachment after policy recommendations. It could be an attachment 1 is the big before it's a summary of all the recommendations in a spreadsheet. And I don't know, do any other commissioners want to weigh in on this? Everybody's getting quiet. I see Commissioner Kalpikoff in the chat. Did he want to say anything? Hello? Okay, I'm sorry, Joe, I can't hear you if you wanted to say something. Is he on mute?
Chairperson Sanborn, I did have just a comment on Commissioner Ward's. I think what he mentioned, this is more of a clarification. He mentioned programs and it said and infrastructure, but he mentions programs would include infrastructure. So that's the understanding, correct? I would just a clarification. I think that's what he meant to make sure it doesn't get too wordy, right? Support of existing programs. Programs include everything from what's been put in place, what's connected, et cetera, et cetera. Is that accurate?
Is that for question for Kobe?
Existing programs, even markets.
Right. So I was just trying to get clarification from Commissioner Ward, but I think he included the whole programming. Programs include programs, you know, everything that's connected to existing, you know,
Exactly.
a program, right? Okay,
Which
I just wanted a
construction
clarification.
happen.
And that was my comment. My comment originally, sorry, I was on my computer issues here, but on Commissioner Ward's comment on programs, and I like the infrastructure part of it before that was removed.
We can add that again. And
which supports MRFs, it supports buyback centers, everything that's current right now that's going through the Blue Cart
exactly.
system.
Exactly. And
That
I'd
would-
just like to reiterate and hopefully get assent from the group that I would like to offer my services to help Chair Sanborn in drafting language and setting the context for the document, and then helping each of the subcommittees identify areas where we need background and context for that aspect of the report. Just make it a little bit more clear, concise.
And the question that raises for me is Vice Chair Valier was voted to be vice chair, thinking that we were working on a lot of this. So, and we can't do more than 2. So I just want to check with Commissioner Valier.
No problem at all. Go ahead and please do help. I've got more than enough to do on my plate. Thank you.
Okay. So I will take you up on that, Commissioner Ward. Thank you for your offer to help me write this, because it is going to be a lot of work.
I have one more quick question while I'm still on. 2A4, can you explain a little bit about that? We're going promotes competitive collection use of secondary waste materials. What the intent there is?
I believe that's in the law, and I pulled it straight from the bill.
Heidi, if I might, I looked at how Integrated Waste Management Board addressed that in 1993, because I had the same puzzling look when I read it, and it really has to do more with the use and I think less on the collection side. I didn't see much there, but I'll go back and try to discern what that meant. Yeah, it's old language, you know, it's language from 30-some years ago.
Okay, well, let me double check the actual bill.
No, that's the correct language. That's the correct language.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay. Yeah, we're interpreting what this means. This is exactly what we were charged to do. And I guess that's part of what we all have to agree on, all 17 of us. Okay. Who is next? I think we had and Kobe, I guess we've got to get back to your thoughts on how to, I don't know what to do here. It's up to you guys how you want to do this report and what you want to report and how you report it. So if anybody has any other suggestions outside of the spreadsheet, and Kobe, I guess you weren't thinking we're gonna put all the proposals in there, but that's what I thought I was outlining, so we could slot under, 2A1, we would slot under increasing market development for post-consumer waste materials, our recommended policy approaches on how to do that.
Let me then revise my recommendation, because I saw some hands were raised about that proposal. So what I would suggest is, this is obviously a living document, and as the committees are developing their recommendations, if some don't fit quite neatly into these categories, that we might want to further expand it as we go. And then your suggestion for a summary, I think, could be at the beginning of section 3, because that would help us to identify how the recommendations connect with one another, rather than creating another document that's an appendix that people may or may not look at. I think we should put that as part of section 3. Let me know if you agree.
It's about size. I don't know. I mean, depending on how many we have, we could do a word table in the section. If it's big, we might have to put it in an appendix and refer to it. I'm completely open. This is living. I mean, this will be based on what we start coming up with and how big it's going to be. But my hope is that we can keep this as simple and clear as possible, so that people actually read it and understand it, and there's not so much fluff they get lost and don't really understand what we did. Commissioner Schneider, I think, so we'll just leave it at that and then we'll just consider this living and everybody can keep weighing in. So on Commissioner Schneider, did you have a comment?
No, I think I'm good.
Okay, Commissioner Toyota?
No, I'm good now, thanks.
Okay, and Commissioner Davis?
I'll pass.
Commissioner Osagura?
No more questions.
Okay, and Commissioner Ward?
Yeah, I think I'm good.
Okay. Okay. So are we good for our outline for now? Looks
I just
like
have
it,
one-
thumbs up. Or Commissioner
Sorry.
Ferrante?
Yeah, where can we, if this is living, I mean, where is it living? I think I missed something. I don't know how
No, you
to
didn't. I
look
was
at
late.
this. Or, where is it gonna be?
So after each commission meeting, Cal
Okay.
Recycles agreed to post our latest version. So they can
Okay.
just put at the top, you know, as of, put the date, and then it'll be live on the website and can be sent out as well. And then for the next commission meeting, that's where we'll start. So if you have proposed changes to it, and if anybody wants the Word version, we can get you the Word version so you can track changes and play with it if you'd like, that you
Great.
can bring those suggestions back to the next meeting.
Okay, thanks. I think I missed that. Thank you, appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. I was late getting it done because of my schedule, so I didn't even finish it till this morning and they just decided to put it up live. So I'm sorry, I didn't get it out earlier.
Commissioner Sanborn, just one minor clerical change. I think the appendix should be moved from section 5 to section 7, because I think we've now moved just the word appendix.
I don't, yeah.
Because I think
I'm
section
not
5.
sure. I think we should take, yeah, the word appendix out. It's not intended to
Okay.
be an appendix. Yeah.
Fine.
Yeah.
And I would suggest too, we put information before analysis. So research, information, analysis, and then any model tools. Okay, is there anybody else that has any thoughts on this or on the process? Okay, so then this is where we landed for today. So this Cal Recycle will take this and put at the top as amended by the commission on today's date, put it on the website and the whole world can see it. And you guys, if you need a Word document, you want to play with it and change it, please let us know. We'll be happy to get it to you. And then you can bring those suggestions to the next commission meeting. Great. Thank you all so much. Okay, so that was agenda item number 12. So the next agenda item, is everybody okay, or do you want a bio break, or are you good? Everybody want to keep going, or? Okay, very good, thank you. Okay, so we'll go on to agenda item number 13, which is the update from Cal Recycle staff. And they were gonna give us an update on some of the items that we'd asked for at the last commission meeting on the 5th, including the SB 1383 report and some information on toxics and packaging. And we were delighted to see that the 1383 report came out yesterday. So thank you so much, staff, for that. And I'll turn it over to Zoe Heller.
All right, well, good morning, everybody. And as Heidi said, we were thrilled to be able to get the 1383 report out yesterday. And I won't spend too much time talking about it because we're going to be hosting a presentation and discussion on the report on Tuesday. So this upcoming Tuesday, I believe it's August 25th. And that discussion will be from 10 to 12. It'll be a webinar. And we'll be going over all of the key components of the report, and also we'll be soliciting input from stakeholders as far as, you know, their thoughts on what we put forward and any other information that they'd like us to include that we'll be able to capture in an addendum. So please tune in for that if you're available. And if you'd like a more robust overview of the report, just let us know. I'll just go over a couple of the highlights. So the report was required by statute, and Cal Recycle, in consultation with ARB, was to release an analysis on the progress the waste sector, state government, and local governments have made in reducing organic waste disposal. And as I'm sure you're all aware, and as was indicated in our waste characterization, you know, we still have a ways to go to meet the goals of 1383. So our main finding was that after analyzing the progress, we recommend keeping the disposal reduction targets in SB 1383, and that's to align with the intent of statute so that we protect public health, support economic growth, and avoid the devastating climate impacts of not acting, many of which we're seeing, right now. The report also found that organics recycling and recovery infrastructure has grown, but still needs significant expansion to meet the SB 1383 disposal and methane reduction goals. Another finding is that mandatory collection programs will spur organics recycling and recovery infrastructure growth. And another finding worth highlighting, particularly for some of the conversations we've been having today, is that procurement requirements in the regulations will create markets for compost and renewable gas and other organic products. So those were some of our main findings. We sent out a listserv.
Comments. This report does not accurately reflect the challenges we have today in complying with current organics mandates. It does not reflect the true cost and significant gap we have in achieving compliance with this regulation.
Yeah, thank you for those comments. And what we hope to do on Tuesday is really understanding that folks won't be able to dive deep into the report, is to give that overview of the report, to have that discussion about it. But we'll be providing additional time for people to submit, comment past just the discussion on Tuesday.
Okay. So Jeff just texted, yeah, just put the star in. We're not supposed to communicate via the chat room, just so everybody reminds, a friendly reminder. Commissioner Dunleavy.
This one's for staff. Just an update on the data request. On the one sheet that you showed earlier, the data request that I had, it had a request date of today, but it was actually at our original meeting. So just seeing if that data will be made available.
I'll have to check on that, Jeff, and get back to you.
Jeff, I would have put that in, and I don't think if it was just an error. We did have that. It was requested a few weeks ago past that meeting. I believe we have like 3/4 of that request met, and we're seeing about the last part, but I can check in, and I posted some documents on our public notice for the meeting on Friday. If you want to take a look at that and let us know, but we're still working on a little bit. Hope to update you soon.
Yeah, that'd be great. I mean, even if you have 3/4 of the information, that would be good to get started looking at that.
Thanks, Kate.
Right, and Commissioner Dell?
Right, I just wanted to follow up on Ted's comment. No, there's no review done by Cal Recycle. I'm the chair of the label committee, and we're going to actually address this tomorrow on product labeling. Actually, compostables are a little bit more clear because of legislation there, but the only legislation is the Business and Professional Code 17580, which refers to the FTC laws. So no, it's a free market. It's a wild, wild west for recyclable for companies to put any type of label on. And then customers would have to try to complain and file a lawsuit. There's been one major lawsuit to date on Keurig and their PP5 cups, which is actually moving ahead as a class action lawsuit nationally. It was filed in California, but it's now national. It's moving ahead. But this is why this committee needs to get out in front of this and develop a more robust system so that we're specifying what's recyclable and really, sort out this contamination issue. Thank you.
Commissioner Ward?
Yeah, that's wonderful. And although I'm not part of the labeling and that committee, I think it would be great if you could reach out to whatever trade association, the packaging engineers and the folks that decide how to package a product. How do they talk to each other? I think that working with them in a liaison basis of asking the question, how do we have a framework where you all know what's okay in California and you're all following the rules and you're all training each other to follow the rules? I think we need to start that conversation.
Yeah, actually, so I've had those conversations over the last 2 years. That's some of the experience that I bring to the committee, is actually reaching out and trying to ask brands and packaging companies to correct labels, which is why I'm an advocate for the fact that we actually need to specify, because the corrections haven't come. And to this is a great point you bring that up, to like the fourth point on our committee was to do these external partnerships and outreach. We'll definitely, once we get, you know, the system defined and how California is going to specify what's recyclable, definitely reach out to these companies. And it's really the brands making the choices. The packagers will do whatever the brands tell them to, and reach out to them and really make, you know, the requirements absolutely crystal clear. And I think they'll be simple and easy to understand. I actually think it's going to simplify the whole thing.
Okay, I don't see any more comments in the chat box. I think Zoe, I couldn't see the spreadsheet you had put up, and I wasn't sure where I think I had requested at the last meeting information about the state agency buy recycled campaign. Is that in that list?
In the list of data requests or the list of
Well, it's an update. You guys, I think we're going to give on what's happening with that program. We've heard repeatedly another comment today, it's unenforceable. The state isn't using its money to help drive the market. So is that in the queue, or does it need to be requested more?
Let me check with Kate or Paulina. Do we have that in our queue?
Hey Zoe, this is Paulina. That wasn't in our queue yet. Heidi, are you wanting a presentation at the full commission meeting or at one of your committees?
Well, I could talk to John, but I think I had requested it at the full commission meeting when we were talking about data requests. So, but then I'm on the market development committee. So John, I don't know if that's something we've delegated it to you to request, or we could just do it as a full commission if everybody's okay with asking.
Yeah, either way. I mean, we're gonna market development meet on Monday. We can make a request for them.
It'd be easier if we just do it now. We're all together. If everybody's okay with me asking for data on the state agency buy recycle campaign and if it's effective, and if so, does CalRecycle have any recommendations on how it can be improved? We'd love to hear that and get a brief update maybe at the next commission meeting. Is that okay, Zoe?
Absolutely. Yeah, we can give a presentation on where we are. Agree with you that it's a opportunity for state agencies to, you know, walk the walk as far as buying recycled content products and those sorts of things. So happy to give the presentation and to provide some of our thoughts on it as well.
Is everybody okay with that request? Yeah? Okay, great. Thank you. I love this thumbs up. This is a great, fast way to move. Okay, and I thought I had a comment, and now I think Manuel is okay, so I'll go to John Davis.
Yeah, I was just going to ask Zoe if I think a lot of local governments are part of a cooperative arrangement through the state program. So if we could specifically talk about that and how it drills down locally, it'd be helpful.
Sure, we can do that, John.
So is that for the market development RMDZ program as well?
Yeah, no, it's part of the commission presentation.
Okay, because the other one I had requested at that meeting, I thought was the update on the RMDZ program, because I've always wondered why we only have these little zones, and maybe why not make it the whole state, and wherever a business wants to site that's going to help provide a market, just give them support. But
I think we can talk about that on Monday.
Okay, sounds good. All right, well then I don't see anything else on this agenda item number 13. There are no public comments. Kate,
There
do you have any?
are two short public comments. Yeah, let me grab them. Both of them are from Stefan Barger at USGBC Green Building Council. Oh, I'm sorry, Stephanie. I didn't go over Stephanie Barger. Sorry, Stephanie. Can this commission help extend the September 10th, 2020 due date for the reusable grant offered by CalRecycle? Same question for, yeah, actually, well, only one comment. Can this commission help extend that deadline, that due date for the reusable grant offered by CalRecycle? Many of us just found out about it, and those that had been following are very surprised by the short time frame.
That was a pretty short time frame. We were looking at it too, but we have no authority to do that, except we can hear your public comments to the whole world and to the commission today, and CalRecycle heard them as well. So I don't know if you want to address that?
I'll just say thank you for your comment, and I'll circle back with our team who's putting out the reuse grant, and we will get back to you very soon with a response, because we do understand that deadline is coming up quickly.
Okay. Well, I don't see anything else. Are there any other public comments?
Heidi, just to give support to staff, I'm sorry, Chair Sanborn. High Speed Rail has extended their public comment periods. Most of the other state agencies with deadlines have extended them. So you've got plenty of consistency within state government for that.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. I think we can wrap up agenda item number 13, the update from Cal Recycle staff. Don't see any other comments. So we're wrapping it up early. We won't need to take another break. We'll take on agenda item 14 quickly, and this is agenda items for future meetings. My suggestion is that we just clean out a lot of the housekeeping stuff that I think we don't need to do anymore. We've pretty much got it wrapped up, and really make the big bulk of the meeting for the committee reports and policy recommendations that we hope start coming. Do you agree? Does anybody have a different thought on that? Or are we thumbs up? Thumbs up? Okay, great. Then that's what we'll do. I'll work with Cal Recycle and Vice Chair Valle, and we'll do that for the next meeting. So it could be literally like 3 hours. The bulk of the meeting is for you to tell us, you know, where you are and what recommendations you're providing, when you're going to get them to us. And we'll go through the report again, make sure the spreadsheet's current on the committees and what you're delivering and when, and how that fits into the report. So we're slowly building and tying things together as we go, and everybody knows where we're going. Sound good?
And I will help Chair Sanborn as the go-to among the committees about additional information and focus that we'll be needing to build the document.
Yes, thank you. So with that, unless there's any other agenda items you'd like to see on the next agenda? Okay, Commissioner Valle?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, at some point, I would like us to ask Mr. Blumenfeld to join our meeting, and because he is the head of the Department of Cal Recycle for all intents and purposes, I'd like to hear from him and invite him to join us and speak to us and answer some questions, either at the next meeting or the following meeting.
I'd love to hear from him. We only heard from him on a Zoom that very first day. So that would be, is everybody okay with that? I can invite Chair Blumenfeld. Awesome. I also thought about inviting Assemblymember Eggman because she authored the bill. And I thought to have the two of them together might be very informative. And I had asked her on the Green Team San Joaquin meeting that she was on, you know, what is it that you, as the chair of the commission, what is it, what would be your golden ring that we deliver in January? And she thought about it really hard. And she said, I want everything. I want markets. I want proper labeling. I want the public to understand how to easily recycle without contamination. I want things to have a closed loop system. So she really, you know, had a big picture, and I think it would be really awesome to hear directly from her, especially because, I mean, ultimately we're trying to make her happy in the legislature. So if that's okay with you, I can invite both of them to the next meeting. Does that sound like a good thing? And that will help give us direction. Thumbs up. Everybody okay? Okay, Mr. Lapis, you good with that? Jan? Good. Okay. Just want to make sure everybody's all right. Well, then I'll make the official invitation today and see if we can get it on the next agenda, because I think it has to be posted tomorrow with these 2-week deadlines. So whether they can come or not, I don't know, but we'll make sure it's on the agenda so that we have time in case they can say yes. And if not, we have more time for other discussions. Okay, so we'll go ahead and do that. Great suggestion. Anybody else? Other agenda items? Commissioner Medrano, are you good?
Well, actually, I support Commissioner Valle's suggestion, but I also wanted to add to that agenda when we invite Mr. Blumenfeld that we ask about the hiring of the director for Cal Recycle. I mean, for
as far as one of the questions, yeah. I'm quite sure that will come up. I will prepare him for that. Okay, excellent. Well, then I think we're all done. I don't see any other comments in the chat box. So we'll move on to our last item, 15, the meeting summary. So here's what I had written down that we accomplished today. The question in item number 2 about the entertainment industry has been deferred to the Labeling and Media Committee. On carpet, there's referrals about the suggestion for EPR and the fines be deferred to Recycling Committee, and the State Agency by Recycle campaign be deferred to the Market Committee, or referred, I should say. And then the comment about conversion technologies, we decided that the Recycling Committee will handle all those comments. We will not read them at the committee meetings, and that we're also going, or the commission meetings, and we're also going to limit our public comment time to 1 minute because we're getting too many and it's tying us up too much. On number 9, we decided that CalRecycle will send calendar invitations to all non-committee members of each of the committees. So you could put it quickly on your calendar and choose to listen in if you would like to. Thank you, CalRecycle, for offering to do that. We also discussed that a glass refilling be considered when glass discussions come up in the Recycling Committee, and that was okayed by the chair. We agreed on our report outline that we'll continue to work on that. That'll be live on, or it will be on the website. CalRecycle will post that along with the committees and what we're delivering and by when, and we will constantly be updating that, but everybody can see it all the time. And after each commission meeting, we will repost it, the updated version. And that CalRecycle is going to report to the next meeting on the pilots for the CRV program and on the State Agency by Recycled campaign. And then we're going to invite Kelly P. Secretary Blumenfeld and Assembly Member Eggman to the next meeting for the agenda and make a lot more room for policy discussion and hopefully hear the first recommendations from the committees. Sound good? Feeling productive? Awesome, because we had a suggestion by Commissioner Dell that we consider the tagline, the Get It Done Commission. And I think we are the Get It Done Commission. So we're going to wrap it up early today, unless anybody else has anything to say, comments? Okay.
Chair
Also,
Sanborn.
thank you all very much for your great work. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I look forward to seeing the first policy recommendations. Okay. Everyone have a good 2 weeks. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
We had a comment from staff.
Oh, we did?
Oh,
Oh,
it was really boring. When we talk about what limiting comments to 1 minute, would you like that to be 150 or 200 words? That's easier for us. We can speak pretty quick, so we could do 200, but 150 words is about 1 minute. So
I think
just-
150. I think
okay.
we got to get the gist and then defer.
Perfect. Okay, thank you.
Great. Thanks again, everyone. Have a great couple of weeks. Stay safe and stay healthy.
Thank you.
Great.